The Xbox Era podcast is powered by you, and if you want to support us, you can do so via Patreon. Just head to patreon.com/XboxEra. And as a thank you for your support, you get cool stuff and we get to keep doing what we do. Now let's get into it. Hello friends and welcome to episode 101 of the Xbox Era podcast. I'm Sicky Mechanico and I'm joined as usual by Special Nick.
What's going on?
And pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, making sure things go off without a hitch, Jesse, aka Doncabesa. How you doing, Jesse?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking.
Glad to hear it. We haven't got Phil Spencer on this week. I just wanted to make sure that people were in the in the know on this. He's not here this week, but last week was pretty cool, right? It was a pretty big moment, wasn't it?
It was really good. And it's funny, I noticed a lot of people saying, "Oh, your face, your face, your face." I didn't realize so many people. Yeah, so many people were like, "Look at Nick's face, look at Nick's face." And I'm like, I was smiling, it's my face. It was and it's funny, we got Phil on. I've just very, very recently, like in the last 12 or so hours, secured another guest for a later show in April, which I'm personally excited about.
I have to give this particular guest a round of applause as well. Because
this
is a get. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one. And I was actually shocked at how, I shouldn't use the word easy. It's the wrong word to use. I was just surprised at how smoothly and quickly it all happened. I was expecting no response from this person. I was expecting, and they were replying to me on Twitter. They're like, "Yep, yeah, okay, cool, let's do it." I'm like, all right, really, thanks for replying, and because you're a big deal, and thanks for replying. He's like, "No, I'm not a big deal. I'm just a guy." I'm like, "Oh, okay. What day in April do you want to do?" He's like, "Yeah, we'll just do it this day." I'm like, "Oh, all right." I was just I was so surprised. He was just
disarmed by someone's cooperation. Instead of them being like, and you have to hassle them, they've just been like, yeah, sure.
It was just so odd. But yeah, I'm excited about this guest.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I think that'll be cool.
Yeah, it should be a really fun episode.
As a little bit of a clue, maybe we should get them for the book.
Yes. Seeing as you've got such wonderful rapport, please let them in, see if they'd be up for
as a bit of a clue as to who the guest is. We'll probably try and get them to write for the book.
Yep, 100%. Oh man, I've had a really video game focused week. I've spent a lot of evenings this week playing video games. So let's start off as we always do. Have you been playing anything new lately, Nick?
Yeah. Been playing Tunic. Tunic's real good, despite what the reviewer of Tunic said.
That everything about it is really good except for one part. The actual review is pretty positive.
It works out well that I didn't review it, because I've put a lot of hours into this game, and I don't think I've gotten far at all, because I've spent so much time, trying to what happens to me in these sorts of games, like Zelda games and Metroidvanias and all that sort of stuff, is that I spend so much time in one area wanting to find every little thing in it before I move on. And that's despite my brain also knowing that I'm 99% sure I don't have all the abilities I need yet to find everything I need to find in this area. And I sit there and I just waste hours and hours.
So, yeah, I get it. I can see the chat's kind of like, what did the reviewers say? So look, for context, right? We, for whatever frustrating reason, we thought we'd wait for Xbox code, and unfortunately, I don't think that the publishers got round to it in time, or whatever the case may be. So we had declined PC code. So Jesse who's obviously on the podcast, running things in the background. He actually did the review for this one, right? And I think you scored it 7 out of 10. Overwhelmingly positive in all aspects, aside from one, which is the combat, right? And
7 out of 10 is a good score.
It's a good game.
I know it's not it's not the good console war score. Like, I know, according to Console Wars, 7 out of 10 is a broken, worthless.
I've got a comparison that I think works. Our 7 is like an IGN 8.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's a good.
I personally so far would give Tunic an 8 or an 8.5. It's everything I wanted.
Same.
I think I do believe though, like, I've seen you complain about the combat and all that sort of stuff. My thing with Tunic was I've been waiting 4 or 5 years for it. Super pumped because I just thought it was going to be Xbox's Zelda. What I didn't know until the recent demo came out was that it's Xbox's Zelda with some Souls/Elden Ring in there. And that, combined with the 5-year wait, is what made me be like, oh. But then, upon playing the game, I discover that it has God mode and unlimited stamina. So I'm like, boop, boop, turn both those on, and it becomes the Zelda game I always wanted. And now I'm just loving it.
So this is interesting, right? So I marathoned the game, so 20 hours. I've probably put in a couple more after saying I wouldn't do another run. I started another run because I've got 2 achievements left outstanding, and that's it. So
what are those achievements, by the way?
So, and look, if you're watching or listening and you haven't started Tunic
spoilers.
I'm not going to necessarily talk about spoilers because I'm not going to talk about plot. I am going to talk about puzzles, but I'm not going to talk about...
The whole thing's not in English.
Exactly, but there is somewhat of a mystery to unravel here. So I'm going to be fairly cryptic because I find this really interesting. So you're talking about the accessibility modes, and I think when I look at Jesse's criticisms of the combat, and I echo them, right? I feel very similarly that as I got stuck into it, there was lots of like, why did it lock onto that one when that's not where I was pointing the stick.
But you use the right stick to switch them.
Yeah.
You use the right stick and switch the lock-ons. I didn't have a problem with the lock-on.
It just did
feel... but when you've got 10 things fighting you at once, it gets real rough.
Yeah, it just didn't feel perfect. And look, I'm not complaining, but I think, and this is just an opinion, I think there are 2 games at odds here, or maybe not at odds, but I think the developer perhaps thought, there's 2 people that would play this game. There's the people that want the brutal challenge, and then there's the people that love those old school Zeldas. And I think that's why these accessibility things come
100%.
in. And I don't think the game is worse for it. In fact, I think it's better because, I've got a lot to get on with in life.
That's right.
When I hit some of the difficulty spikes, I had no shame. All right, I'm going to admit it here live. Flick that on, hammer through it, turn it off again until the next difficulty spike. If I couldn't overcome it after a couple of tries.
Admitting what live? I'm playing the entire game with God mode on.
And I think that's a good thing. And I think that you're getting a very different experience. You're playing now
Zelda,
not a Soulsy, platformy or Death Story style type top-down isometric game. You're playing an exploration puzzler. And
guess what? Even though I've got God mode on, I'm still upgrading my HP and everything.
Yeah.
Because I just love doing that stuff.
It's fun. I
just like doing it.
It's a really pretty... I'm sad that there's no HDR implementation because the colours are so bright and vibrant anyway. It surprised me that...
Stunning game.
It's gorgeous. Stunning
game. One of the best looking games I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's really lovely.
Gorgeous.
But I completed it. And I think the biggest thing that I think is worthy of praise that isn't the combat is the intricacy and the depth and how deep these puzzles go and how linked everything becomes.
My God. Yeah, the level design is unbelievable. There
bonkers.
Are hidden walls and paths everywhere. I can't believe that I didn't find the shield until someone told me where it was. Like, I had been in that old house 100 times, and I'm like, man, What is this is locked. Why was this empty house locked? I'm like, why? That's so dumb. Yeah. And I'm like searching for this shield. I'm all in the East Forest. I'm all in the West region. I'm in the atoll. I'm looking for this shield. I'm like, I found everything. I found the staff that shoots. I found the whip. I'm like, how am I finding all this stuff and I can't find the shield? I don't need the shield. I'm in God mode, but I want the shield. I like to collect my stuff in Zelda games. I'm like, why can't I find this shield? And I'm like, I'm not going to guide it. I need to find this shield. Couldn't find it anywhere. Went back into the well, went back to all these other areas, can't find the shield. Eventually I gave up. So I'm asking in the Discord, I'm like, where the hell is this shield? And then James is like, it's in the old house. I'm like, what? So yeah, man, there's a hidden wall in the house. I'm like, oh my God. And then I've gone and I found it. And then it turns out that links to this other area in the game. And I'm like, oh my God.
It's brilliant.
Everything is so linked.
It's just like little bits of Metroidvania, puzzles within puzzles within puzzles. And
it's a Zelda game. It is a Zelda game.
To give you some fun clues, right? As you piece together this exquisitely designed manual, which
how good is it? How good is it?
It's almost the highlight of the game, and I know that sounds strange if you haven't played.
It's like the old video game manuals, and very specifically Nintendo's old video game manuals.
Gold
like,
on the outer and inner covers is the Nintendo
I haven't got all the pages yet. But like as soon as I saw all the drawings and the illustrations and everything, I was like, I don't know if many of you ever owned the Nintendo Game & Watch games.
No.
The boxes for them, they used to come with manuals too. And it actually reminded me more of the Game & Watch manuals than it did the SNES manuals. If you ever owned the Game & Watch games and the manuals that came with those, it was more like those. But I just love looking at it.
Well, this is where it gets really interesting, is because the game, again, if you haven't played it yet, I recommend you do. But the game has its own in-game language, which you can decipher. There is a way to read it, right? But it involves getting a notepad and pen out.
You'd have to figure it out manually, yes.
But here's what's really cool. Throughout the manual, as you uncover more pages through normal play, you'll start to find little notes in the margins and little hints at things and locations. Little scribbles. And, we were talking about, I've got these grey doors and I can't get in, and they've got these kind of symbols on them. I'm going to give you a clue.
Yeah, go.
The Holy Cross. It's a clue on the page in the book, so I'm not doing anything, but I'm just going to say the Holy Cross. Look at me fingering my pad delicately, gently.
Yeah, I understand that.
Up, down, left, right, down, right, left. Have a look at the pattern and then go from there.
Yeah, but those little grey doors are everywhere throughout the map.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I went into the west area and there's one of those grey doors right near the start of it where you can go from under or from above. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, there must be something I do later in the game that opens up all these doors in one hit.
Nah. Just stand in front of it, have a look at the pattern, and think about the Holy Cross, and that's all you need to do. But this is where it gets insane. And when I say insane, so this is a late game. It's not.
That's
really
why I told people there's a lot of Elden Ring about it. Because Elden Ring's old school. People are like, have a notepad out and blah 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 with Elden Ring. And this is why I said to people, it's Zelda meets Elden Ring, like more than Souls.
It's gorgeous. But as you collect all these pages, there are certain pages that have other clues buried within them that aren't maybe immediately obvious, and then right at the end of the game you get a big clue, and then you have to sit there and figure this thing out to do this last thing, and it is absolutely and like the intricacy,
it's ridiculously old school.
It is. I mean, hats off to the developer for this one. It's really clever and cool.
It's ridiculously old school. It's off the charts old school, because that's how we played games when we were kids.
Yeah,
we sat there. I used to write notes in the manuals of the game sometimes, and I used to have a notepad to remind me of stuff. Like I used to do that as a kid, unless I rang the $17 a second hotline.
Do you remember those? The hotlines?
Yeah, I rang the Sega and the Nintendo one many times.
Oh, mate. I've never rung a hotline. Thank God.
No, I used to ring them, and they were like so expensive. I got in trouble so many times with my mum. But like I remember Jesse talking in the Discord about how it took him ages to figure out how to upgrade himself. But I was like, nah, the clue was in the manual. The manual showed you how to upgrade. like.
Did you know?
And then what?
That you can combine the wand that you found with the fire shooter that you find, and if you assign them to Y and B, as an example, if you've got sword on X and you press Y and B at the same time, you'll do, instead of a fire blast or an ice blast, you'll do a fire and ice blast remote, like, so you'll fire it out like the wand does instead of the blast up close and short range. And then you can use,
because I've got the magic dagger, which is the ice one.
Yeah.
And then I've got the staff, which shoots the little bolts.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can combine them by pressing Y and B at the same time. Wow, and they'll fire a dual shot. And it's just, there's all little hints handwritten in the manual in here and there and everywhere. And it's just so well done.
Yeah, that's why I was looking forward to this game. I knew it was going to be a great game. It's just that the difficulty, Soulsy, Elden Ringy stuff threw me a bit. So then when I saw God Mode, I'm like, cool, well, I'm just going to turn it into the game that I wanted and turn God Mode and Unlimited Stamina Mode on. And now I'm loving it. And I'm still upgrading my life and I'm still doing those things that I don't technically need to do because of God Mode, but I just enjoy doing that stuff in games.
Do you wish Elden Ring had a infinite stamina and infinite health?
Yeah, mode? I really do.
You probably play it and explore every nook and cranny, right?
Probably. But right now, everywhere I go in Elden Ring, I need to go back to it, but like everywhere I go in Elden Ring is just blocked by a massive boss. It's just blocked by a massive boss.
It's just
and me, like an idiot, everyone keeps telling me, everyone that I talk to about Elden Ring is like, oh, you chose Bandit? That's like choosing the hardest mode. I'm like, oh, okay, so I chose the hardest mode in a hard game, and I just chose the Bandit because it looked cool. Like, there was no other reason. I couldn't tell the difference between all the classes. To me, it all looked the same. I just like, in terms of stats and everything, it all looked the same. But I liked the aesthetic appearance of the Bandit. So I just chose the Bandit, not knowing that I was making the game harder on myself.
Yeah, I still haven't played Elden Ring. And unless somehow it either winds up in Game Pass or someone gives me a code, I'm probably not going to try it. But the other game I played and finished this week, I've completed 2 games in this week. I mean, that's pretty marvelous. But Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, I started that last week. But I haven't beat it. No.
And again, another game with some really great accessibility features if you get stuck. I didn't really need them. But what an incredibly great, well-written game. Now, you're not going to appreciate cutscenes, but the more I played, the more I thought, this feels like playing one of the movies. And I actually thought by the end of it that particularly the Peter Quill character and Rocket in particular were so well voice acted by their actors that, you know, yes, the characters look different, but it felt like playing through a Marvel movie. It had all the fun, all the laughs. The gameplay was great. The combat was fun. It was imaginative. It was colourful. It was ridiculous in all the right, hilarious ways. Talking dogs. I mean, I was genuinely impressed and surprised. And yeah, what a sleeper hit from last year, and what an absolute great get for.
It's sad that it was sort of overshadowed by the Avengers.
The debacle of the
stellar
live service game
reception. Like, I feel like had Guardians of the Galaxy come out first, like before, like so it may not have been a smash hit, but its reception would have been far better, and I feel like it would have had one of those original Crackdown moments. So, original Crackdown, everyone bought the Halo 3 beta. No one bought Crackdown. They bought the Halo 3 beta.
Yep.
And it was very clever by Microsoft at the time, because Microsoft knew they had a good game on their hands, but they also knew that no one was going to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
So what did they do? They said, here you go, buy the Halo 3 beta, get Crackdown for free. Let's be honest, that's what people did. And then they discovered that Crackdown was this quite fun, amazing game. I feel like had Square released Guardians of the Galaxy first as a primer for the Avengers and framed it that way, I feel like more people would have given it that chance and talked about it and said, oh my God, Guardians of the Galaxy is actually a really great game. Like, oh, wow, wow, wow. But then what's happened is Avengers has come out first, because Avengers is the bigger property. It wasn't what people were hoping for. I'm not going to bag it. It just wasn't what people were hoping for. Then it got dumped on for its games as a service stuff and how it handled a lot of that stuff. And all of a sudden, no one gave Guardians of the Galaxy a chance. It was tarnished by the Avengers.
It was. I also don't think the first showing that Square did of Guardians of the Galaxy, that first trailer, I thought was awful. Like, I watched it, I was like, what is this? What are they doing? This is terrible.
I don't remember it.
It was bad. It was genuinely bad. But when you actually get into the game, you've got this incredible soundtrack. They've got this great mechanic during the fights where it's like, okay, huddle up. And like, you give morale to your team and then you hit the cool music and finish out the fight. It just worked. It was so much fun.
I went back to it and I'm enjoying it.
100%.
So far.
Worth finishing.
Having reviewed both of them, the main difference with Guardians of the Galaxy is this is what, if you only did the single player campaign in Avengers, it's on the same level as this in a different way. It's a little more serious, not as funny, but like the quality's there. And the thing they did there is the Avengers is constantly broken up by Square telling them it has to be like Destiny. And they didn't do that in Guardians of the Galaxy, so they could just laser focus on the campaign the entire time, and it shows.
Yeah, and it's a great game. So certainly, if you're listening to this and you've looked at it and eyed it in Game Pass, give it a download. It's definitely worth your time.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
I saw someone ask, "Is Tunic a family-friendly game?" Not without God mode.
Yeah.
Like, my kids came in and watched me play it, and they were like, "Oh, look how cute the fox is! Oh, this game looks cool." Because visually, it's 100% a family-friendly game. But then you play it and you realize it's a very old school. Like, it's a game I played as a kid, but back then games were different. Games back then weren't about accessibility and being family friendly. My kids, or our kids, aren't the same types of gamers we were, because they are not growing up on the games we grew up on.
Yeah.
So
short attention spans.
Not just that, like, I can turn God mode on and unlimited stamina mode on, but that doesn't mean they're going to enjoy the game, because they've still got to figure out puzzles and they've still got to read that manual and they've still got to look for nooks and crannies. It's just, that stuff doesn't come naturally, I don't feel, to kids today in terms of their games. I don't know. I don't feel like that comes naturally to them.
No, I see it in my boy all the time. It's like there's a lack of willingness to figure things out.
Yeah.
Where we you know, I couldn't go to my dad and say, "Dad, do this difficult part in a game for me," because he didn't play games. It was my generation's thing.
That's
and
right.
He's now like, "Dad, I'm stuck," and I'm like, "Go play something else, or keep trying." Like, you've got two choices.
Yeah.
Because if you keep trying, you'll get better at it. And it's just
my son did it to me in Odyssey.
Yeah.
He'd play Mario Odyssey, and then he'd be like, "Baba, come do the boss. Come do the boss for me."
Always want help with the boss.
I'm like, "Buddy, come on, figure it out. Like, you know how to play this game. Like, look at what the boss is doing. Like, just figure it out. You'll be okay." And we're talking about Mario Odyssey. Like, there's no real death.
Yeah, exactly.
In Mario Odyssey, I'm like, just do it, buddy. You'll figure it out. But yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what a great time to be playing games. 2022 is off to a roaring start. And we recently got a pretty good look at some upcoming indie games. I mean, Tunic, it wasn't announced to be in Game Pass, and it semi-leaked, and then they announced it at the Idea Xbox Showcase, and they announced
come on.
I mean,
we always going to be Game Pass.
We thought it was for a while, didn't we? But they ended up announcing a lot of games, and I haven't tried Shredders yet, which is the new snowboarding title that's out. I've heard good things if you're into, snowboarding.
I've heard it's very sim-like and less arcadey.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, well, from the people that I've spoken to that have played it, they're like, "Oh, it's less arcadey and a bit more sim." So it depends which way you want to go. Me, if I'm playing a snowboard game, I want an arcadey snowboard game. Like Snow Surfers on Dreamcast, 1080 on Nintendo 64.
Was SSX tricky? the other one on Xbox.
Yep, that's backwards compatible as well.
Yeah.
I think SSX3 and Tricky are backwards compatible.
Yeah, and then you had Amped on the OG Xbox. Was
OG
Amped,
Xbox, never played that one myself.
Yeah, might have had a go. A long time ago. 20 years ago. But yeah, we've seen quite a few things announced, and like I'm not going to read them all out, but there was something like, I don't know, 25 games. But
how long did that show go for?
It was exactly just about 2 hours.
Oh, that's not too bad. It happened before
It was a much better pacing than the far better than the first one, and a little better than the second one. The second one was fine.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. But I saw a couple of things that
while I was asleep.
There was a wrestling game. I thought of you when I saw it. Did you see it?
That old school looking
WrestleQuest.
WrestleQuest, an RPG, isn't it?
Yeah, to become the best wrestler in the world. Bit of you.
I don't know if I'd play that. I just like the old wrestling arcade games, those old Royal Rumble and all that sort of stuff. But I'm not interested in the RPG stuff. I just want to wrestle. I still yearn for someone to make a newer version of one of those Nintendo 64 Aki wrestling games, or like Def Jam Vendetta, built on that engine, like that. How do you the wrestling engine itself, like the grappling and how it all. Anyone who played and loved those games knows exactly what I'm talking about. All I want is one of those wrestling games, sped up a little bit, modern graphics, modern flourish, all that sort of stuff, but still built off that wrestling model. That's all I want, and I'll play it forever. Maybe
one day soon. Maybe they've nailed it in that particular game, but they've put some RPG elements in. Who knows? But I know we've done a preview recently for Trek to Yomi, which is coming from Devolver Digital. You can check it out on the channel now or on the website. Not long now.
It does not have a date.
Oh, really?
I
thought it was later this summer. I mean, I presume if they're doing previews now,
it's
imminent.
But they showed a lot in that trailer that was not in the preview, so I'm interested because the preview was about 45 minutes of gameplay. It was pretty samey combat wise, and then the trailer they showed at the ID at Xbox show was like way more stuff combat wise that looked really good. So I'm very interested and jealous that Harmonica's reviewing it.
It looks great. I'm
hoping that's not a Song of Iron situation for me.
Yeah,
like that Song of Iron game. Visually, when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, how cool does this look?" Like, wow, blah 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 blah. And then I played it, and I was like, "Not feeling it."
It's immediately better playing. It's not the deepest thing at the start, but it's very quick.
Oh, that doesn't bother me.
Every fight is a slasher too. Like every person you attack, they only take 2 hits to die, and it's much snappier than Song of Iron was. Because when I played, everything was so plodding in that. It just. But yeah, I was very impressed with the 45 minutes I got. The voice acting and the story are phenomenal, and it's all Japanese, and like the lip sync is perfect and everything. It was very impressive.
I'm seeing people in the chat. They're talking about there's an AEW wrestling game coming, and I think it's from a lot of those guys. Like,
they were getting the Aki team back together.
Yeah, I had heard that they are trying to make a wrestling game that is reminiscent of those games. If they pull it off, mate, I'm there. I'm just gonna that wrestling model in No Mercy, WCW vs NWA Revenge, Def Jam Vendetta. It's the same model. Like it works perfectly in wrestling. Like I played all the other wrestling games that tried to do their own thing. They all suck. I'm sorry, but they all suck. The wrestling game you love, it sucks. The way these ones did it is perfection. It's very you could almost call it archaic, but it works for a wrestling game. Like, you've got the button for grapple, and then you've got your directions on the D-pad, and depending on which direction you hold with the move button you hold, it does a different wrestling maneuver. So I might do a suplex, I might do a blah blah blah, I might do a punch to the face. And each wrestler has a different thing. It was good. It was straightforward. It helped you understand the wrestler you're using, and it made it easier to switch wrestlers and know what you were going to get. It's such a great wrestling model that I'm shocked. Oh, they were so good. Like, I'm actually baffled that other wrestling games didn't just straight up copy the model. I'm baffled because it's just, yeah. They were so good, those wrestling games. They were
maybe this is the dawn of that new one that you're gonna get and love forever. So
I hope so.
The other big call outs I'd say from that Idea Xbox show that I saw that kind of caught my eye. I quite liked the look of the co-op Escape Academy, which is basically escape rooms but in digital form. So you play it as a first person. You've got to figure it out together, and you've got a timer. Could be a giggle. Although I sense that after a while that playability might come down, but I'd have to look further into it to see if they've got
maybe a party game. Maybe it's more of a party game.
Maybe, but I think it's meant to be all online and working together to figure stuff out.
But it could be fun at a LAN night.
Could be, yeah. Could be.
If you think about it, if you're having a LAN night with a bunch of buddies over and you all play this escape room game across all the different rooms in your house or whatever, it could be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. It's a really kind of interesting idea. I mean, it did bring back those memories of Major Nelson doing an escape room, and I felt intense pain, but otherwise, yeah, it's worth a look. So yeah, that and WrestleQuest. But there were a lot there. There's another one out at the moment, which I think we've got Amanda working on a review for, which is Paradise Killer. But yeah, it's just games for days. Isn't it lovely? And I do wonder, because obviously we've got E3 coming up later on in the year, or whatever E3 ends up being. Let's call it the Microsoft Showcase. Are we going to see something where we, like how Tunic was the big indie game, and then when it was shown, and then you had Ori was the big indie game when it was shown. What's the next gorgeous indie game that we're going to see that's been cherry picked?
Yeah,
because we've seen a few of them. Like I know we've had was it The Last Light or something like that? And there was the Pixar.
Are you talking about The Last Night, the one that had a bit of controversy around it?
Yeah, that one with the weird developer views.
Premise.
And then there was another one recently that
replaced at last year, but they're affected by the current goings on in the world. So we're not. Yeah.
You'd be surprised how much that's like. You think, Ukraine, Russia, it's affecting a lot.
Yeah,
it is affecting a lot. Like it's even somewhat. I've been told. Is this Rumourmill territory? It's even affected an announcement of something potentially.
Wow.
Well, that's the thing. It's one of those weird. Is it Rumourmill but not Rumourmill? I don't know.
It is a world-affecting event though. Either way.
Yes, it is affecting a lot more than people think, even in relation to video games. But yeah, I feel like Microsoft's quite good at picking those games.
Yeah,
those really arty, charming,
Artful Escape,
Artful Escape, Death's Door, Tunic. Like they're just really good at picking those really arty, charming indie games. Like I find they're quite good at it.
I need you to start your work on. I'd love to get Chris Charler on the podcast.
Oh yeah.
I had a brief conversation back when we started, and he was like, "Yeah," and I've even got like direct messaging, and I've got his email. But maybe if we'll go via PR, maybe put that request out there, because it would be great to get him on to talk about how they go through that process.
I've got a funny feeling something like I remember messaging Chris back on the Gaff days, back when NeoGaff was, and he was really responsive, and I registered for ID at Xbox through him, and we were chatting back and forth and all sorts of stuff. So I wonder if something happened where Chris has sort of pulled back from social media a bit in terms of responding to people on social media.
Perhaps that. Also simply that maybe back then, Xbox wasn't in the best place and there was more time. The Idea Xbox program has grown immeasurably since. Maybe he's just really flipping busy. But maybe
he's a nice guy though. He's a super nice guy.
I'd love to get him on to chat, and I'm sure the audience would like it as well. Funnily enough,
I'll talk to Johnny. to put me in touch with him.
Well, just let me know, and obviously I'll send the official email once the conversation's been had.
Yeah.
We've got a super chat from Jason.
We do. Jason. This is my mate Jason. Congratulations on episode 101. Episode 100 is the conventional milestone, although 101 is huge in my opinion. True.
It is
100%
true.
Jason.
I'm actually going to throw in ad-lib a little game later on towards the end of the show that we'll play. We'll play Room 101. Did you ever play that or watch that show? It's a very British show. So it's basically you pick your ultimate pet peeve and you get to put it in Room 101, which is like putting it in the bin. So you just talk through like the one thing, if you could pick, and it can be as obscure as you like, and you just get to get rid of it. And you talk through it. But usually they have celebrities on and they talk through like their top 3 things, and the host has to agree via the argument of the person whether it is worth putting in the bin, if they've got a worthy reason or not. It's could have a bit of fun with that. But it would have been cool to do something Fallout themed for this episode. We realized that. We probably realized it around episode 98 and didn't really have enough time to pivot and sort something out. You got Phil last week. You're just going to have to just enjoy that. And this is just, business as usual. Do you know what's cool that is happening this week coming?
The Halo
if
show?
If you're living in a place where Paramount Plus exists, you get to watch the Halo TV show. I've seen some mixed reviews thus far.
No.
I
saw a comment from the showrunners or the producers that had me like, oh.
What was the comment?
I'm like, that's probably not the best thing to say to people when you make a TV show based on a video game.
What was the comment?
Look, I don't have the quote in front of me, so please
Paraphrase.
don't take this as me quoting. But the gist of what they said was, we basically didn't acknowledge the video game exists. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a great thing.
Oh dear. Well, it's funny.
Having said that, though, are you looking forward to my debut in the Halo show?
Which Spartan do you look like now?
I'm the Master Chief.
I know you are, Pablo.
Mate, I am the Master Chief. What are you talking about?
You do look a bit like Pablo, to be fair.
I mean, I was going to keep it secret, but then they revealed to everyone that I take my helmet off, so everyone now knows I'm the Master Chief.
I'm looking forward to someone gifting something with your face on it at some point soon.
Someone on Twitter, I think it was Infinite Umbra on Twitter, was like, yeah, we're going to need to see proof that, you look like Pablo Schreiber. I'm like, man, I look like Pablo Schreiber. The messed up nose and everything.
What do you think, audience?
Like Pablo Schreiber. What was that?
Yeah, put the picture up, Nick.
The picture up? Yeah. I'm sorry. I look like Pablo Schreiber.
He's got a squarer jaw. You've got a pointier chin going on, but the beard is
I'm a little bit pointier. Yeah. Although the beard does contribute to that. It's the way I style my beard that also adds to that. Hey, if I shave my beard off, you'll see exactly what my jaw looks like. I shaped this on purpose. But yeah, I hope you're all looking forward to my starring role as the Master Chief in the Halo TV series.
It's funny, my parents brought me up on sci-fi, so I grew up on Star Trek and stuff like that, and I read Isaac Asimov when I was a kid, all those kind of sci-fi books and genres, and they've been lamenting to me like over the last sort of 8 months, we've watched everything, there's no good sci-fi anymore, everything is so boring now. And then Apple did Foundation, which was obviously based off of Isaac Asimov books, and they enjoyed that.
I haven't seen that yet.
It's a bit wishy-washy. The problem with a lot of modern sci-fi now, and the biggest problem for me with modern Star Trek in particular, is they've tried to completely go this serialized route where every episode is a continuation of a story. And I watched things like Star Trek Discovery, and I'm just like, it's just everyone's crying every 5 minutes. Everything's about love. And I'm just like, bring back the good old standard monster of the week. There's a problem on the ship. We're on a mission. We solve the problem in 45 minutes and we move on to the next one.
But that's what's great about The Mandalorian.
I agree.
That's what's so good about The Mandalorian.
That's why it works. People that are making Star Trek need to pay attention. So when I know this is on Paramount and I know that there's going to be a larger overarching story, I'm nervous. I'm nervous it's going to be about love and Master Chief's humanity. And I just want it to be about shooting aliens in the face.
that we're cautiously optimistic. Like,
And the reviews are only for episode 1 for most people, and some had the first 2 episodes out of 9.
Yeah.
So.
And I have seen The Expanse. If people are going to recommend The Expanse to me, yes, The Expanse is great. And it even started to get into the kind of really cool, almost felt a bit Mass Effect-y in season 3. Really, really enjoyed it. But yeah, if you are a Game Pass subscriber and you're living in the US or in any region where Paramount Plus is available, which I think might only be the US, because it's certainly
4 more days.
Here.
It starts.
You get 30 days free with your Game Pass sub the day before the show starts, so probably worth picking that up. We're looking into, and we'll try and compile an article if you're not living in the US, how and where you can watch the Halo show legally.
Probably head to the Caribbean.
Paramount Plus's Wikipedia actually has every country it's coming to listed and where it's going to be.
That's good.
It's mostly Sky in Europe and the UK.
Find someone with a Plex server.
I think it's Sky Cinema. If you're a Sky Cinema subscriber, you
subscribe to someone's Plex server or something.
XboxEra does not advocate for such things. What else?
I'm not telling them to pirate.
I know you're
not telling them to pirate.
You're telling them to watch it on whoever else.
If they have a friend with a Plex server, what? Well, that's not telling anyone to pirate.
No, quite right. But yes, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm hopeful it's going to be some good, fun sci-fi that I can.
Well, we have it in Australia. We have Paramount Plus here, which is surprising because we don't have Hulu, we don't have HBO Max, but we do have another service that accesses HBO Max's stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's called Binge, and Binge usually gets HBO Max's stuff, but we don't get HBO Max yet.
That's what I'm hoping they're doing in the UK. Like, Amazon will pick it up, or, one of the providers. So we'll see.
For you, John, in the UK, it's Sky, and it's a part of Sky Cinema, I believe. If you subscribe to that already, it just gets ads for free.
I'm not going to subscribe to Sky Cinema, so I guess I'll have to wait. That's right. I've got a family friend that has Sky, and they'll have a Sky login.
Share one of their things if Sky doesn't crack down on password sharing like Netflix is going to do.
Yeah, probably.
How dumb is that?
It's very dumb.
Do these companies not understand how this stuff works? Like, the reason Netflix has 200 million subscribers is because of the sharing.
Yep.
Like, don't they get that? Like, don't they understand that? Are they that stupid?
Yes, unfortunately. What was the phrase that Gabe Newell talked when he talked about Steam and piracy? He was like, it's actually more about removing friction to access than about, stopping people from doing it. If you make things cheap and easy to use, then they won't want to pirate. So we'll see.
That's what I mean. Like, it's not... If they crack down on password sharing on Netflix, they'll just lose subscribers.
Yeah.
That's all that's going to happen. And then they'll probably increase piracy. Like, it's just dumb. Like, encourage people to use multiple profiles. And then what you'll start to happen is you'll get more and more people subscribing and then sharing amongst their families. You'll add subscribers that way. Like...
I'm still waiting for... Because I've got a Spotify family plan, and very similar. Like, I had people on that plan that weren't living with me, and then suddenly, like, they stopped it all and they really cracked down on it. And even though it was my family, no, sorry, they have to be in the same address. So I've downgraded my plan from a family
plan. That's what I mean. Like, they don't get it
to a duo. And it's just like it's very silly. In other news this week, Hogwarts finally got its big unveil via a very short notice and surprising PlayStation State of Play. So it looks like they've picked up the marketing on this one with Warner Brothers.
God, it was weird seeing the console warring online acting like Hogwarts was a PlayStation exclusive.
Of course they were.
You guys get that it's not an exclusive, right? Like, you understand it's a multiplat. Like, it's
people
odd stuff. But I'm not a Harry Potter person, never have been. I don't know if unfortunately is the right word, But unfortunately, my daughter is a massive Harry Potter fan.
Are you going to pick it up then for her?
I don't know if I will.
$70 on new consoles. They went more expensive.
Maybe I'll. Well, it's supposed to be coming out in the fall. Her
$70
birthday is in the fall, and then there's Christmas. So
wow, but $70 and not supporting smart delivery then?
Yeah, and I wonder.
No, Warner Brothers is all in on the more expensive current gen.
So they don't have any smart delivery games, Warner.
No, it can't be smart delivery if you're charging more for the.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying, have Warner Brothers games done smart delivery games?
They haven't put anything out in a while, so I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm just curious, like, is this part of the marketing or something? I don't know, but that's some sort of tinfoil hat stuff. But yeah.
But Warner Brothers is marketing everything through PlayStation. All their games, the 2 Batman games, are both PlayStation as well. So.
It's interesting, right? Because, you know, you say you can't do $70 games if you're supporting smart delivery, but Sony did with Horizon Forbidden West. You could buy the cheaper version and get a free upgrade, right? So
that was a one-off.
Okay.
And we're never doing that again.
You guys stop holding us to some sort of better ideal.
You shifty gamers, you're not doing that again.
Oh, you know, I say that, Nick. I'm looking it up. Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga is smart delivery.
See, and that's why
coming
I'm
out
like,
in under a month.
Is like, I'm like, okay, tinfoil hat time.
If it's PlayStation marketing, it's not allowed to support smart delivery.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wouldn't put it past Sony. I wouldn't put it past them to be like, nah, you're not supporting smart
Lego Star
delivery.
Wars is Xbox advertising too. So.
Sorry.
Wow.
Lego Star Wars is Xbox advertising, from what I've seen.
Oh, I'm just calling it as I see it. I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't put it past Sony to have it in the marketing agreement. You ain't supporting smart delivery on this one and making it cheaper.
Because it makes it
another
really
one, Back
terrible.
for Blood.
Yeah.
Back for Blood was smart delivery and on Game Pass and advertised by Xbox.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
Oof.
It'll be part of the marketing.
That's shocking if that's the case. But I mean, as to the game itself, I was a Harry Potter fan as a younger person.
Never read the book. Never watched the films.
I have very hilarious memories of the last book coming out, Deathly Hallows coming out, while we were at a paintballing land with our gamer friends. We did a paintball event, and one of the guys was driving in, and he was this huge Harry Potter fan, and he ended up picking me. He was like, "Do you want me to pick one up for you? I'll pick up another copy." I was like, "Yeah." And then instead of socializing, I spent far too much time just reading until like 3 a.m. But I mean, I finished it that same weekend. But yeah, it was a rush job.
Smashes through all the books.
Yeah, my kids will get into them. But the game looked okay.
Loves it.
It looked like a game that has had a very long development time. That definitely started last year.
That's okay.
But it looks just,
I don't know,
pretty.
It's a weird situation.
Yeah, the whole thing with the author.
I know, that's what I mean. Like
the vitriol.
And that's why that stuff is, to me, it's such muddy territory to talk about, because I just find that too many people pick and choose their outrage moments. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Sony's marketing this game now, and we all know about J.K. Rowling, but I feel like no one's really
They're not gonna. And it's like, people will just talk about the game and not about. I guarantee you'll see plenty of outlets focus on her. But the thing for me is, she wrote these books that are basically Star Wars with wizards, right? That's all they are. Like, if you actually cut it down to it, you know, Voldemort is Darth Vader, blah 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 blah. You know, the young orphan prophesized, finds out he's got the Force when he's young, blah blah blah. Whatever, you know. But they're just stories, right? And they're so massive now. They've made such an impact on so many people's lives. Like, people are like, don't support the game because she's going to make money off of it. So, Like, I'm not trying to.
No, it's just
Like, yeah, I get it. Vote with your wallet if you're that principled. But if you love the series and you want to play the game, just play the game. She's not going to care.
But my thing is, like, for example, right? So my daughter is 10. How do you suggest I explain to a 10-year-old why she shouldn't like Harry Potter and shouldn't support it?
Yeah.
Like, how does one suggest to me as a father how I convince my 10-year-old daughter why she shouldn't like and support Harry Potter? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, how far do you go with this stuff?
Yeah, I'm not ready to demolish something my kids enjoy just because someone turns out to be an awful person. Like, my daughter, we talked about this with Jeff Grubb the other day. My daughter came to me yesterday and said, Daddy, can you draw Blippi? And I started to draw Blippi laying down with another man across the top. No, I didn't really do that, but I was like, no, darling, we don't want to talk about Blippi. Blippi's bad. And he's like, no, he's funny. How do I explain to my daughter why Blippi is a bad human being?
I feel like a lot of the people that argue about this stuff online and get outraged, I wonder how many of them have children that are into this stuff, and B, you have to wonder how much of it is just for show and how much of it is performative. Like, this stuff's not always black and white. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not always so clear cut, and I don't know. It's just there's layers to this stuff, and it requires nuanced, mature discussion.
Yeah,
rather than
it's hard to have a mature discussion because I could come in and be like, "I'm banning that. You're not playing it." But the actual thing she's watching, although I know the person behind it is awful, the thing she's watching seems perfectly educational and, yes, irritatingly American in some ways, but otherwise harmless, right? I'm not going to suddenly turn into a draconian parent over this one thing because in the grand scheme, in 2 years' time, she's not going to have Blippi posters on the wall, right? I will gradually dissuade. But Tando in the chat, what's wrong with Blippi? Oh, Tando.
Let's not go down that path again.
Blippi's a bad man.
But it's just, that's what I mean. Like, it's not that simple. Like, I just look at Bluey now, right? The whole world loves Bluey. The whole world adores Bluey. What if it turned out that there was something real bad about it? I'm just saying, like, do you know what I mean? Like, does that mean you just suddenly say to your kids, well, Bluey sucks now. We've loved it all this time, but now Bluey sucks. Like, it's, I don't know. Again, maybe I'm probably not eloquent enough. I'm probably not intelligent enough to have this discussion properly. The only thing I know is that I don't think it's as black and white and as simple as everyone likes to make it out. Like, there's a real discussion to be had around separating an artist from their art. There's a real discussion to be had about that. And where do you draw the line? Where do you, like...
I just saw the best comment in the chat that I've seen in quite a while, which is from ShadowlessEdge, who's just said, because we need a Bluey game.
How is there not one?
We do need a Bluey game. The art
for
style
sure
would be
someone's working on
for
one.
it.
For sure someone's working on one. Like, there's a Peppa Pig game, there's Paw Patrol, there's Ryan. Outright Games, who seem to be the go-to developer for all these games. They're an Aussie developer, I believe. They're called Outright Games, I think.
Yeah.
They made the Paw Patrol games, they made the Ryan game, I think maybe even the Peppa Pig game, but I could be wrong. I'd be shocked if Outright Games aren't making a Bluey game. A Bluey game would be like, mate, that's the exclusive Microsoft should be securing. You want to get a big exclusive, you get the Bluey game. That's the one you get.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway, it's enough of that. It looks like an okay game. If you're into Harry Potter, you probably have a good time.
The combat looked bad. Everything else looked pretty good. Kind of like Tunic.
The problem with combat with a wand is it's, with your gun, you can replicate recoil and feedback. With a wand, you're just mashing a button and watching stuff happen. Like, you're not up close.
Visually, it's very nice.
Yeah.
But I started reading about you got to take classes and you got to do this. I'm like,
got to go to school.
I'm like, what? You're in a game where you have to go to school and take classes? I'm like, I said to my daughter, I'm like, look, if whatever, maybe someone will get it for you for Christmas or your birthday because it's going to come out probably between those two events. So I'm not going to buy it for her, but if someone else wants to, they can.
Yeah. So anyway, in perhaps a negative or a negatively slanted piece of news, or certainly at least everybody took it very negatively and had a little mini freak out, and there were lots of dramas on Twitter and all sorts of things.
The one that I teased on Twitter
was yeah, I saw you tease it just before.
And Andy
it
Robertson
dropped.
reached out to me. I got a message. I didn't know. I just, someone came to me. I got 3 sources reached out to me about that stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, can I just say this on Twitter? They're like, yeah, go for it. So I put out that tweet saying, oh, we might hear something not so great about the initiative in a second. And then Andy Robertson reached out to me. It's like, where'd you hear about this?
Who on my staff told you about
Where'd you hear about this? I was like, oh my God, sorry. Was that? I didn't know. No one mentioned you to me. So I apologized profusely to Andy because I did not realize.
You did not mean to scoop the scoop.
No, I wouldn't have done that if I had known.
No.
If I had known it was coming from Andy, I wouldn't have done that.
We're going to have Andy on soon,
told me.
right?
Supposed to, yes. He keeps saying he wants to jump on.
Yeah, we could tell him.
But yeah.
But yes, the initiative. So lots of levers of the 30 odd names that we saw in the initial kind of initiative trailer. 15 are no longer there. I think VGC, Video Games Chronicle, they did an exclusive sort of deep dive on this. They've spoken to some of the former employees. Doesn't sound too hot over there. And there've been rumblings on this, from Clobberl on Reset in the Xbox OT over the last week or so before that news article dropped, where they were looking at LinkedIn and seeing, these high-profile senior lead developers have moved on. And it seems that, although they provided comment that, our work with Crystal Dynamics is great and everything's fine, we wish our prior colleagues all the best, from Daryl Gallagher, that there seems to be a little bit of a rudderless ship in some aspects going on at the initiative. At least that's what the reporting seems to indicate,
well, that's the way it's being framed.
Yeah. What's your take? What's your take on it, Nick?
Well, usually in these instances, the truth is somewhere in the middle. So I'm sure it's not all going swimmingly, but at the same time, I'm sure it's not all they're about to shut down the studio. Like, I'm sure it's somewhere in the middle. Like, we've always said that we were of the impression that the initiative was never going to be the actual AAA studio. They were going to be more of a World's Edge type of studio.
I feel like the right word is incubation.
Incubator.
Yeah. Like, they put the little nest of the idea, they fine-tune all of the specific bits, and then they go to this wider development team. But what happens to the core team that came up with all the ideas, right? And I think that's where we're hitting that roadblock.
Like, and I think a part of this goes back to Microsoft still being bad at messaging. So with World's Edge, it has seemed fairly obvious from moment one that World's Edge was going to work with other developers to bring games to life. So we've known from moment one that Relic were making Age of Empires with World's Edge overseeing. But the initiative wasn't sold that way. For the people that look a little bit below the surface, which I'd like to believe we do, we were like, oh yeah, the initiative will be like World's Edge. Like, they're just going to be sort of the overseers and the project managers while another developer does the actual grunt work. But Microsoft's messaging wasn't like that with the initiative.
No, it was not.
They made it seem like, no, the initiative's doing all of it. They're doing all the development. And it's like, yeah, but your team is like 60, 70 people. How are you going to make a AAA game with 60, 70 people? Like, that's not how that works. So for the people that understand how these things work, we all knew that the initiative was the overseer, like World's Edge. But the people that just take everything at face value are like, oh, no, but you said this is the AAA, quadruple studio.
I think if I think back to when they were first announced, it was my understanding that this team was eventually going to turn into a larger, 150, 300 people team studio.
Taking the time doing it if that was the case.
Right? But things played out And obviously, you know, we got this announcement last year that Crystal Dynamics was partnering with them, which is obviously a studio owned by Square Enix. Daryl Gallagher used to run that studio before he joined Microsoft. So the partnership made sense. It's with a team that understand how Daryl wants to run things, presumably. But I think if you actually look at the name, you know, the initiative, right? We are taking the initiative. We're going to take their first steps. It makes sense. And I do think here that we've probably got a bit of a classic Microsoft messaging fumble that has now bit them in the behind, because outwardly, if you are an average participant in the video game world culture, you would have assumed they've built a new studio. It's the equivalent of 343. Yeah, all of these kind of things. It's based, you know, they kept harping on that it's based down in Santa Monica, right? It's down that way, or down in California, or whatever the case may be. Top tier developers, blah blah blah. They framed it as the next pivotal arty super duper. I mean, even the job descriptions are famously known for being quadruple A. Right, that was another terrible blunder from some recruiter.
Quadruple A does have a meaning in the industry, and that is a next-gen focused AAA title. That's what it means in game development from developers.
And that may well be all well and good, but for the average person watching, even higher than AAA, you know, it created this sphere of expectation that they're now having to backpedal on and move around a little bit. And I also think that, you know, as with all things, and this is the reason they're acquiring studios with established teams and established workflows, is making games is hard, and you can't just shove a bunch of super creative people in the room and expect them all to get along, all to align.
The crux of the issue.
And that's the crux.
You can't, in the end, right, despite what people believe, it's even the same with sporting teams, right? Not everyone's going to get along. There are human beings that don't get along with each other. I know that more than most because so many people don't like me. It's just, it's inevitable. You can't just assume that if you poach all this top talent from all these studios, that it's all going to mesh and it's all going to gel. That's why you're actually better off buying established teams as opposed to trying to build one yourself. They've
already got their culture.
If you have a look at the studios Microsoft has built from the ground up, how many do they have that they themselves, since getting into video games, have built from the ground up? Turn 10?
The Coalition, Turn 10, 343.
343? That's it?
Yeah. That is it, I think.
That's it.
I mean, we've got World's
And I would
Edge.
argue, of those three, one is top tier, efficient, gets the job done quick and on time, great track record. That's Turn 10.
Yeah.
That is Turn 10. And I've been told from people within Microsoft that the dude that runs Turn 10, Alan, unbelievable. Dude is unbelievable, right? And that is why you saw Turn 10 pumping out those Forza games.
Yeah.
They're getting them out. Forza Motorsport, this new one, I'm expecting massive things. You know why? Not that I care about Forza Motorsport. I think the last time I played Forza Motorsport was number 4. And I didn't play it for long. I'm not a Forza Motorsport guy. But just the things I've been told about Turn 10 and Alan, who runs Turn 10, now that they're getting all this time, I'm expecting massive things from Motorsport.
Yeah, I am too.
Only because I know how good that studio is and how much time they are now being given. I'm expecting Motorsport to be off the charts good.
And
again, I don't care about it because I don't play Motorsport.
On that,
just based on what I've been told and what I know about that studio, I'm expecting Motorsport to be ridiculous.
If Gran Turismo fans have been having a hard time over the last couple of weeks, just with the comparisons to Forza Motorsport 7, they might be in for a horrible time when Forza Motorsport.
Oh, look, let's not get into that, because the Gran Turismo 7 argument is
bizarre. Like cherry picking bad screenshots.
Cherry picking bad or cherry picking good?
Well, pick your definition. Which team are you playing for? I mean, that's how I see it getting on Twitter.
The only thing I'll say about Gran Turismo 7, this is the only thing I'll say, and this is me being as straight as possible. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Gran Turismo 7 is the first time Polyphony, however the hell you pronounce that name. Gran Turismo 7 is the first time Polyphony have developed for 2 platforms at once.
I believe so.
Correct. Please correct me if I'm wrong, chat,
I think
or whatever.
you're right.
Anyone.
I think you're right.
That's all I'll say about Gran Turismo 7. It is the first time that Polyphony are developing for have developed and released for 2 platforms at once. Gran Turismo 1 was PS1, Gran Turismo 2 was PS2, Gran Turismo 3 was PS3, 4 was PS3, 5 was PS.
You almost had it right. Gran Turismo 2 is PS1. And then
Gran Turismo 2 was PS1. Sorry. Long time ago. I've got one of the Gran Turismos. I can't remember. But each one has been for one platform. They've never done a cross-platform dual release before.
True.
And they already weren't the most efficient studio at Sony.
True.
So that's all I'll say about Gran Turismo 7. Take that as you will. Yeah. But it's something to consider when... Because, anyway, it's something to consider when debating about Gran Turismo 7, how it looks, what it's doing. You know, apparently it was offline for over 24 hours.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. Whoops.
Plenty of games to play, guys. If Gran Turismo 7's offline for a day, that's okay. It's one day over years. It's okay. It's really not that big a deal. It's okay.
And to be fair, PlayStation have had one hell of a Q1, right? So, go play all the other...
Well, yeah. Apparently there's so many bangers to play. It's okay if Gran Turismo 7's offline for a day. It's fine. I understand the frustration, but it's okay. It's one day.
It's just video games. It's okay.
So for that one day, go play Horizon. Or go play something else. It's all right. Like, I don't know. Pick and choose your battles. Like... I don't know.
The battle on Gran Turismo is around the microtransactions more than anything.
Yeah, I saw that they released a patch to make things more expensive.
Yeah, and they waited till after reviews before releasing that patch, didn't they?
Funny that, isn't it?
I'm sure that's just a coincidence.
During review period, there were no microtransactions, so no one knew anything about the system.
Wow.
They waited
I'm sure that's just purely a coincidence. I'm sure that wasn't intentional at all. No. They wouldn't do that.
Heaven forbid.
Still didn't crack 90, but anyway, I'm sure that wasn't intentional. And you know what happens if a game doesn't crack 90? It must just be the worst game of all time.
Game Pass fodder. That's for all the games that don't.
If you don't crack 90, then you are just the worst game that's ever been released. I mean, you may as well have cancelled it. What's the point?
But yeah, so slight tangent, but the initiative, look, at the end of the day, it's not that bad. It's not as bad as things may seem. The actual game itself is still in full development.
That's a lot to lose, though. 34 out of around 80 is a lot to lose in a year.
Sure, but you've got to wonder how that would work. One studio's here, the other studio's over there. You're the X senior lead. Well, there's a senior lead over there. What happens with this job duplication? He's going to be calling the shots because he's got the full team behind him.
And that's what I mean. Like, once Crystal was brought on... So, how many of those roles are still needed at the initiative?
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to ebb and flow. You know, I think it's going to ebb and flow as a team, and until they either go full or they'll just continue to be this kind of incubation group.
You know what?
Some description.
You know what? Just acquire Crystal Dynamics and merge them.
Boom. Problem solved.
Problem solved. Just acquire Crystal and merge them.
Job done.
Just take all the crap out of it. Just don't worry about it. I mean, it doesn't seem like Square really wants them. like seriously, it doesn't seem like Square really wants Crystal anymore. Just take them off their hands and merge them into the initiative and just call it Crystal Dynamics. Like, don't even worry about the name initiative. Don't even worry about it. They haven't even put out a game yet.
Here's a question.
Call them Crystal Dynamics.
Perfect Dark, I mean, we hoped we would see some form of gameplay this year with a release in 2023. Do you think that is now off the table, and we're probably looking
No.
at. You reckon?
No,
Still
I think
good?
it's possible. I'm not saying one way or the other it's happening or it's not happening. But the problem is without knowing the timelines of everything, because remember what they show us isn't always the reality. So they announced Crystal was on whenever it was. When was it? September, October, something like that.
They announced it at the Game Awards, I think, didn't they?
Oh, was it? It was
around then.
It could be that Crystal was actually there a fair bit earlier.
Yeah.
And it could be, again, we don't know the full story. So is it a case of Perfect Dark's going in a certain direction? Some leadership were like, oh, don't know about this direction anymore. Let's go in this direction. People are butting heads. The people in the existing direction win out. People start going. Crystal gets brought on to continue the existing direction. In which case, it should be ready for gameplay reveal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
they were announced September 30th is when it was announced.
See, it was September. So there you go.
Ago.
So it all depends on what was happening behind the scenes with Perfect Dark. Like, was it a case of some people didn't like the track they were on, left, but they're still on that track, but now Crystal's brought on to fast track that track?
Yeah.
In which case, maybe we do still see gameplay. The stuff that was described to me about Perfect Dark sounded great. Hopefully, that's still the track they're on. Like, if you see the people... I'm worried about how this is going to sound, and I don't mean it the way it might sound. But if you look at a lot of the people that have left, they are ex-Sony first-party people. This is a first-person game. So I wonder. I'm just no. See, and that's why I said I know this is how this is going to sound.
I get it.
I'm just saying that they told us fairly early on that this was a first-person game. The stuff that was described to me was all first-person combat-y stuff, which sounded really cool. I think I tweeted out, "Think John Wick-esque," and yeah, very John Wick / Mirror's Edge.
Yeah, makes sense.
But if maybe some people decided that wasn't a great direction and maybe they should make it a third-person stealth action game, which for the record is what I said I always wanted this new Perfect Dark to be, by the way. I always said I did want it to be a third-person stealth Splinter Cell-y action game, for the record. But if some leadership wanted it to change direction and others wanted it to stick to what they were on, then
some butting of heads.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And if you look at a lot of the people that have left, it's the people that were formerly at Sony Studios.
Yeah.
Who have now returned. Like, what was his name?
Drew Murray.
Was from Insomniac? Yes, Drew Murray. It was from Insomniac. Yeah. So, again, this is just me speculating and putting pieces together. I don't know anything. But, yeah, I'm just saying it looks a bit like that.
Yeah. 6 of one and half dozen of the other, perhaps. But yeah, that's the initiative. So I did notice, and I think we forgot or we didn't see it. We got a super chat from Supernova. If you want, I'll allow you to scroll there.
Yeah, Microsoft conference this year. Will it be better than 2021 in terms of revealing new games? And what are your expectations for the reveal?
Pretty high.
I may have seen something to do with this. I'm not going to say, but I may have seen something to do with this year's, like, information. I don't mean saw anything as in shots or videos. I mean as in I may have saw some information about stuff for this year that, if it comes to fruition, should be good.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident they'll have a ridiculously good show this year, and they normally have pretty good shows. But this year,
the focus will be Starfield.
Well, what a fantastic segue, because they did show some Starfield stuff this week with a new video for the Wanderers.
And I'm still not overly interested in the game.
Do you know what?
I'm still not interested.
And the more that they tease it in this kind of very low and slow burn, talking about the scale and the scope and the human interaction and the universe. The more I'm like, come on, please be good, please be good, please be good. And but if it turns and, underneath all the glamour and the glitz, it's another long-winded, grindy RPG. I don't know. I did not like.
Isn't that what you're expecting? I'm expecting that.
Yes.
That's part of the reason I'm not interested.
I'm also expecting something a little bit more refined and streamlined. And look, I allow, and I'm human, all right? I'm allowed to feel this way. I allow occasionally video game marketing hype cycles to just get to me. And Elden Ring, it's trying to penetrate my shield. I'm seeing all my buddies playing it in our sort of WhatsApp chat, and I'm like, no. Oh, Tunic's pretty good, guys. I yell from behind Tunic as they're all bashing away in Elden Ring. But Starfield, I think, the scale and scope of it, this is the first new IP from Bethesda. We had Phil on last week. He was talking about how it would be remiss of him not to talk about Starfield because it's a new IP from Bethesda. And it's sci-fi, and it's grounded sci-fi, and it ticks so many boxes for me. And watching them just talking about what they want to achieve, I'm excited. I want the game to be for me. I want to finally have this be everyone has their first Bethesda game, I think. Anyone I've spoken to, for me it was Morrowind or Skyrim or Oblivion, Fallout 3, whatever. Everyone's got one, and I still haven't. Like, I've tried all of them. I've bought some of them, and I've just bounced right off. So if Starfield can be my Bethesda game, I would be a very happy man because it's the right genre.
I will say, visually, it looks very strong. Like I've seen, I've seen all of Bethesda's games, and they're not visual showcases and never really have been. That's not what Bethesda's game. Like, even as someone that doesn't play Bethesda's games, I know what they're known for. And being visual powerhouses is not it. Having said that, Starfield looks like it might be that.
Yeah, I'm very hopeful.
But again, is the footage they're showing us gameplay?
I think it looks animation-wise gameplay. Because
like that robot clip, that 4-second robot clip looked like it could have come straight out of the game.
Yeah, I think it did.
He walked up to it, it spoke to him, because the main protag's female.
I think you can choose. Doesn't matter what you do.
It's
an RPG. That's what they talked about in this show.
Okay. Just all the marketing was showing a female protag, so I just assumed, so it looks like your character is walking up to the robot, and the robot talks back. So that looked like it could be from gameplay, and if it is, what a good-looking game.
I'm looking at a chat. I can see Token from the team saying, I'm going to be disappointed if I expect streamlines. They're talking about expanding dialogue trees and character creation. That's not what I mean. I mean the Bethesda jank, right? And I think you will know what I mean when I say Bethesda jank, that their games are notoriously buggy but beloved, right? And I'm talking about removing all of that stuff. And, the hope is, I think, quite some time ago, I can't remember who, I think it was Todd Howard, he was speaking to some journalist. He was talking about, right now it's ready. You can play it from A to Z and it's done. But they've had all of this extra time to really polish this to a mirror shine. And that's what I mean by refined. Like, I want to see that jank be at an absolute minimum. And I get that these games are so vast with so many cogs and turning wheels and everything else, and the engine is so complex, and it's layers upon layers of different systems all running at the same time, and it's going to break any second. But if they can really refine it down, I want it to be my Bethesda game. I'm very excited.
You know what we've been forgetting to do?
Pulling in super chats and making them relevant to the subject.
Yeah, I know. And there's a community question here that relates to Starfield, but there was one about the initiative, and
there was one about Tunic, and we screwed up.
Tunic.
We're only human.
Oh man, I'll read this one from Cade Forever. That's to do with Starfield.
Go on.
Cade Forever. Hello, crew. So Ashley Cheng, Bethesda, last year told the Washington Post that Starfield is the Han Solo simulator. Do you think this means that spaceships won't be loading screens to make it feel like you were traveling to planets, but rather you get to fly the spaceships across the galaxy as a badass space warrior with ship combat? Thanks. And may the wait for Starfield be as short as Nick turning his back on Elden Ring for Tunic. Your loving friend Kate.
You know what? I think any sci-fi game that is focusing on settlement and colonization and exploring the galaxy has to have real-time ship traversal. I would be, and I don't know, but I would be very, very surprised if they did a Destiny and made the ships the loading screens, because that would be awful. You know, if No Man's
Then how
Sky
close
can
are the
do it-
planets going to be to each other? Well, you can just have someone flying in real time for hours.
No, I'm thinking like the way Elite does it. They have jump gates, or
Okay.
you jump star to star, and you use them as gravitational things. But
you
there's
need
lots of ways to
something-
do a flight model.
Yeah, but you'd need something between those two planets, like to make those flights,
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
worthwhile.
I agree.
Otherwise, they're just holding down a trigger to fly and waiting to get to the planet. Like, there should be something. That's probably why they just do it as a loading screen. But theoretically, with these SSDs, you shouldn't need those loading screens.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and this is the thing, right? I look at if studios like, and I know that it took them a while to really make it what they kind of originally sold it as with No Man's Sky, but Hello Games can do from surface to space, real time, in so many different ways. If a studio can do it to that degree, like Bethesda can. Yeah, I mean, even if it's a curated galaxy, and we're not talking, Elite Dangerous is an example where it's all procedurally generated, right? It's very different. If it's all handmade and hand painted, or to a degree hand painted, fine, even if it's smaller. But if the scale of everything is there, with hub worlds and space stations and random encounters in space, as you say, and distress calls, and the imagination goes wild.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I really, really do want that reveal to be everything that is slowly being built into. And I think the fact that they are doing, and this is rare for Microsoft, a slow burn marketing reveal with these very talky pieces talking about the art and how it makes you feel and blah 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 blah. I think they know that they're onto a winner. I think they do know they've got something special, and we'll find out.
Well,
later
some
this
people
summer.
use the Sony. Some people use the Sony Money Hat guide as whether it's a good
Did
game. Or
Sony
not.
try and buy it? Probably
Sony tried
did
to
that.
money hat Starfield. I guess they knew it was a great game. I mean, look at Deathloop. Deathloop turned out to be a great game.
Yeah.
Having, do I say what I was told this morning potentially about Ghostwire Tokyo?
I've heard lots of good things about Ghostwire Tokyo as well.
Have you?
From the previews, yeah, lots of positive buzz.
Okay. Fair enough.
That was a very weighty pause there, but okay, we'll leave.
It's funny. I'm seeing a community question now about GT7 and Forza.
we screwed up, Chief. We were so excited off of episode 100 that we rolled into episode 101 with no preparation whatsoever. But yeah. So, and speaking of game engines and complexity and everything else, there was an interesting piece, and I'm not sure if you saw this, that came out of GDC this week.
I did see it. I'm the one that pointed it out. And I want to talk about this because I feel like no one is talking about this. And I get why. Because, gamers trademark, copyright, registered trademark, don't like talking about stuff that's not super obvious to them and isn't about graphics and isn't about this and isn't about... But I don't know, I read this story out of GTC and it made me raise my eyebrows a little bit. So, and as far as I know, we might be the only people talking about it. So Ubisoft at GDC revealed something called Ubisoft Scalar. I assume that's how it's pronounced. Scalar. And, I read all about it. I saw whatever, and I still can't fully wrap my head around what it is 100%, but I understood enough where I'm like, I reckon this is a bigger deal than people might think.
Yeah.
It's effectively, from what I could gather about Scalar, it's a back-end technology that allows, and it's cloud-based, and it allows for bigger worlds, better social engagement with customers. It allows games, I think, to even potentially be changed in real time and all that. Like, there's, if you read up about it, there's some pretty interesting stuff behind it. The reason I found this so interesting is because not that long ago, there was talk of Ubisoft were like, oh, we'd be interested in being acquired potentially. It was only like a month or two ago. They were talking.
Yeah, I think there was the owner, Guillermo, or whatever his name is. He was talking. Whereas before they were fought off all the Vivendi acquisitions, they were like,
for the right offer, yeah. And I saw this tech, and I'm like, there is no way known there isn't a big publisher that wouldn't be interested in this tech and using it.
Yeah, so
just from what I've seen, like we're XboxEra, so let's put the Microsoft hat on. I look at this tech and I'm like, there is no way known Microsoft wouldn't be interested in adding this to GameStack.
Yeah,
something like
as
this
an overall
into GameStack.
Piece of the tool set that they can provide.
It's cloud based as well. Like they'd add it with Azure or whatever. I look at that and I'm like, man, there must be some big publishers who are looking at tech like that, and then they look at all of Ubisoft's IPs, they look at all the studios, they look at and be like, mate, you know what? Maybe it is worth nabbing Ubisoft. Maybe it is worth it.
I mean, it would, considering the amount of what's the phrase? Monopoly cries that we heard over an unmonopolistic move of Activision purchasing. It'd be one hell of a ballsy move.
And I'm not saying Mike, I'm just saying just general. I said a major publisher. Amazon would be interested as hell as well.
Yeah, I was going to say Amazon might be one. But I mean, I know
Amazon would be interested as hell because they're a cloud provider. And they're probably tired of using Crytek's Frankenstein lumberjack version of their engine. And like, I reckon Amazon, like Ubisoft would actually be a great fit for Amazon because Amazon has all studios. If they buy Ubisoft, they suddenly have like 57 studios that can work on games and some of the biggest IPs in the world. Again, this isn't me saying, oh, Microsoft's buying Ubisoft. I'm just saying that I'd be shocked.
From a technology perspective.
This from a tech perspective and all this metaverse talk and all this, like all these big tech companies are now suddenly loving the metaverse and they're all about the metaverse now, including Microsoft. To me, that the way I'm understanding Scalar, there's a lot of very metaversey, big social world type implications here with this tech, as well as traditional open world games and all that sort of stuff. But as soon as I saw that, I was like, man, with all this metaverse talk and with everything like that, I'd be very surprised if one of the big tech giants that are in games, like Apple, like Microsoft, like Amazon, Google. The only reason I say Google less so is because Google look like they're getting out of it. So I would have said Google 2 years ago, but Google now probably not.
Well, their Stadia backend is being pivoted more towards hosting games as a backend streaming service. So the only question
I have is,
they're not going to buy
Ubisoft and all those studios and all that IP just for that tech.
No, that's true.
But for a tech giant that is in games like Microsoft or Amazon, it's a real good proposition.
I wonder what their tech's back end is built on, whether it's AWS or Azure. That would be interesting. Yeah, it doesn't specify it in the articles we've got, but
I know in the same way we speculated that Orion was a bit of an inspiration for Microsoft to go after Bethesda because of that streaming tech. To me, this looks like a similar thing. Again, not necessarily Microsoft, although I'm sure Microsoft would be interested in that. I'm just saying that in the same way, I'm sure Orion helped Microsoft over the edge with wanting Bethesda, because they're like, oh, look, not only do we get these studios, not only do we get these IPs, we also get this streaming tech, which helps xCloud if we implement it. Amazon or Microsoft might look at Ubisoft and go, okay, well, Amazon especially, because they have like no studios. So Amazon's like, well, we're getting all these ready-made studios that are set to go that can pump out games. We have all these IPs like Assassin's Creed and this and that and the other. And we get this cool back-end cloud tech that we can use for our games, but license out as well.
Yeah, it's a super interesting one to keep watch on. There's always an element with this stuff, and I know, the folks watching and listening, we all heard 2013, power of the cloud, blah, 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 blah. I think as developers have become accustomed to what cloud processing can do, this isn't talking about power of the cloud in that sense. This is talking about using the rendering power, the computational power of that cloud to build bigger and better and faster to allow the things that we like to play within those worlds.
But also the connectivity as well.
Yeah.
The connectivity aspect. Like I read something in there. Yeah, I read something in there about them being... about them being able to change a game in real time to respond to the players.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And
that's why I just like living in.
Yeah, with all the metaverse talk and all that sort of stuff, I just found that all very interesting. And I noticed that no one was talking about it. Saw a couple of articles and that was it. I don't know. I just wonder if now there's a lot of bigger companies now looking at Ubisoft, hearing them say, oh, now maybe we'd be open to it for the right offer. And now going, oh, well, hold on. Like Joey looking at Monica with that pie. Maybe Microsoft's having a look going, oh, what you got over there? Is there some cloud tech over there? You got some cloud tech? Oh.
Not the meatloaf
And then Ubisoft's, oh, you want some? And then Microsoft's just cut me a little slice of it. A little bigger.
No, I thought it was bigger. The meat trifle. The meat trifle.
Yeah. Tastes like
I
feet.
like it. Anyway.
That reminds me, we had a super chat from Faisal last week that we did not read out. It was the only super chat we missed. Wow. And I've been meaning to mention it this week because I felt really bad. But yes, Faisal, the gist of the super chat was congrats on 100 episodes. But yes, I feel bad that we did not read it out. So Faisal, if you're watching right now, I'm sorry. There was a lot of super chats and they kept going and it was hard to get back. So, and I do believe that was the only one we missed.
Yeah, I think we did pretty good on keeping on top of them, thank God. But so
I'm saying it now.
You know what? Do you know what time it is?
Oh man.
Do you know what time it is? Do you know what time it is?
I don't know how people are going to react to this.
Let's do it.
I've got the words out.
It's the Rumourmill. We've never heard that before. It's the Rumourmill. Things change, we can't be sure. It's the Rumourmill. You know they may not come true. The XboxEra podcast is not responsible for websites presenting these rumors as facts.
It's the Rumourmill.
They could probably hear us talking over that, couldn't they?
I have no idea.
No.
Are you sure? Because they could hear us talking over last week's videos.
Yeah, because I had it set up very differently so you could hear the video, so I had to use desktop.
Okay.
Back to the normal setup.
It made some of those videos funny though.
It did.
Because it made some of them, I felt bad, like the ones that were only in the left channel, we were talking over it so you couldn't hear the video. But
yeah,
then there were others that were quite funny. Yeah, the cog one. Yeah,
I fixed cogs in post.
Oh my god, that reminds me. I was going to upload all those. I need to do that.
Yeah, stick
upload
the
them individually to the channel. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the fill segment.
I need thumbnails. On it.
So this Rumourmill's a weird one. Like, look, I'll be upfront here. I have received so much stuff lately that I've been overwhelmed with it. I've forgotten about a lot of stuff. And yeah, I don't know where to go with this. This is something very short. A lot of people are going to be like, oh, is that it? But it's interesting nonetheless, and it's all I can say. Remember, I'm the dummy. They're the ventriloquists. So I say whatever they tell the puppet to say.
Okay.
So this is the only thing, and this is Xbox related, so people will be a little bit happier. All I was told that I'm allowed to say is that sometime this year, or I should say maybe sometime this year, because there's a lot of stuff delaying things lately, whether it's the Ukraine situation, still COVID issues, chip shortages, all that sort of stuff. So I'm not going to say it's definitely happening this year, but I've been told it should be this year. Please, for anyone starting Reddit threads or writing articles, I'm saying it should be this year. Because that's what happens, man.
I know.
I've got to be careful how I word stuff. Xbox currently has some hardware to show that they've got some hardware that they want to show, or that they're going to show, that falls into a different bucket than people are probably expecting.
Interesting. Now,
that's it. I said it's very short. It's very.
Do we theorize on this?
Oh, I know what it is. I say what I'm allowed to say. I don't remember. I'm not.
That's what I mean. Do I
clever enough? I just say. I see the words. I see the script. I read the script. It's part of the script. And that's it. I just give the script.
Now, I'm seeing the chat say VR, and I'm like, no.
Well, again, I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm not saying one way or the other.
And to be clear,
but there's been rumours of a lot of stuff, hasn't there? So there's been talk of a streaming stick. There's been talk. There's been a lot of VR discussion. There's been portable talk. There's been all sorts of stuff. I'm not saying which, because I'm not allowed to.
Yeah, we saw those projects names from last week.
We saw all those project names, like Keystone and all that. Again, I'm only going to read the script as it's been provided to me. I have been given a lot of stuff, and I'm just not sure 100% on the stuff I'm allowed to say, not allowed to say. There's something I do want to say about GoldenEye that I was told, but I'm not 100% sure yet, because it relates back to the shows I mentioned, May and September.
Yep.
And I'm not 100% on a May and September show, so I don't know if I want to bring up GoldenEye in relation to those shows, if the shows aren't 100% locked in. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, you can.
And Jesse might need to Google something very quickly. When is the anniversary of GoldenEye? When is it? Do we know?
1997.
No. I know it's the 25th. I know this is the 25th anniversary of GoldenEye. I'm talking about more specifically like a month.
August
25th.
Okay. Because that's what I was told. Oh, fuck, I'm just going to say it. So that's what I was told. I was told that the plan, and remember how I said earlier, Ukraine's delaying some surprising things.
Yep.
I was told that the plan is to announce GoldenEye at one of the shows, probably the first show, because if the second show really is September and the anniversary is August, if they want to release it, if they want to release it on the anniversary, then it can't be at the September show. It would have to be at maybe the May or June show. So the plan was to announce GoldenEye at the upcoming show, the major show, whatever that is, and then I think release it for the anniversary.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah. But I think, I'm reading the DM now. I've brought it up now. I found it while I've been talking. They say that they literally say here that Russia-Ukraine stuff has potentially affected it, But the stuff that hasn't changed is Xbox, PC, Switch. I've always said that. I've said it on Twitter. Yep. I've said it on the show. It's going to be an Xbox, PC, Switch game. But in terms of release and in terms of announce, I think the plan was to release it for the 25th anniversary. GoldenEye.
God, I can't wait to play that game again.
Oh my God, I'm dying. I'm dying to play that game.
Must be so much fun.
Yeah. The other thing I was told, and I think we've mentioned this before, was that, again, the plan, I don't know if they implemented it or not, but the plan was for crossplay between the three platforms. The three platforms, I don't know if it was just Switch and Xbox or Switch, Xbox, and PC. Yeah, but I don't know if the crossplay was for all three.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. I just know that they were looking to try. Remember, I'm saying they were looking to try and do it. I'm not confirming 100% one or the other. It's like people that keep busting my balls about Persona. It's like, you said Persona was coming to Xbox. I said, well, actually, I didn't. What I said in my tweet 14 months ago was that Microsoft are trying to get a certain Sega RPG into Game Pass. I said they're trying to. And then a couple of months later, I followed that up with a tweet of Persona with an Xbox logo. Now, everyone took that as Persona's coming to Xbox. It's like, well, no. I said they're trying to. Negotiations, this, that, the other. And I'm sure they are still trying to. I haven't heard since then what's happened. But I'm just saying, like, a lot of people... That's why I try my best to choose my words as carefully as I can. Yeah. To avoid stuff like that. But yeah, so... I wasn't going to bring up GoldenEye, but I'm like, bugger it. I've got that much stuff coming. Like, I still need to post on Twitter those screenshots I've got of Lego Star Wars that I've been holding on to for a few weeks. I don't know. That game looks so good.
It does. It really does.
That Lego Star... Didn't some footage leak? Didn't someone leak a bunch of footage of it?
Yeah,
yeah, like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone leaked a whole ton of footage. And I went back to my guy. I'm like, okay, so there's footage out there. Can I just leak these screenshots that you sent me like a month ago? And they're like, yeah, just let me redact all the stuff that could reveal who it came from. So I'll probably post those screenshots on Twitter. It's such a good looking game, Lego Star Wars.
Definitely looking forward
when it comes out, we need to go back to that Rumourmill episode and see if all of that info was right about Lego Star Wars.
Yeah,
because remember we did a Rumourmill about it.
Yep, that would be fun. Be fun to check and verify.
I've received so much stuff over the last couple of weeks. It's overwhelming. Just various stuff about games, stuff about money hats, stuff about what else? All sorts of things. Like there's a lot that I have to sift through. There's a lot that I need to chase up, maybe other sources about. Potentially even some Elder Scrolls 6 stuff. Should I have said that?
No, probably not. They'll probably get you in trouble.
I may have got some Elder Scrolls 6 stuff. But I'm trying... I know. That's why I was surprised to get it. But part of that info is it that early? I don't know. That's why I'm trying to follow stuff up and I'm trying to get things confirmed, because Elder Scrolls 6 would be a very touchy subject, I feel.
Yeah. You know? That's gonna rustle some jimmies, I think.
Yeah, so I don't want to say stuff unless I can get certain things confirmed before jumping the gun on Elder Scrolls 6.
It's a wise decision.
As a little bit of a teaser, I may have got some info about Elder Scrolls 6. I'm just waiting to see if it's someone trying to bullshit me or bullshit my source or if it's legit. I've just got to hold back a little bit before I get too excited.
It's a wise precaution, mate. It's a wise precaution. So we're at this point in the show where I'd like to take a moment and just do a couple of housekeeping-y bits. One, if you're watching and you're new to us, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and all of that fun stuff. And if you really love what we do, you can support XboxEra on Patreon. Just head to patreon.com/XboxEra, and you can join the esteemed lists of wonderful folks who love us, look after us, and enable us to do a surprising amount. With their help. And one of the things we announced on episode 100, which was great fun, was Day One, our new Game Pass focused community app. One small teaser update today is I do know that our developer is currently working on the integrations and API stuff, API calls for Metacritic and how long to beat. So you'll be able to look at a game within the application and actually see the average time to beat if you just want to play it through from start to finish, if you want to 100% it, and so on. So we're trying to integrate all of this cool stuff into one very, very nifty place. And we're looking forward to getting it into our patrons' hands for initial testing. And if you want to be a part of that, all you got to do is subscribe to the Patreon and you can be helping us bring it all to life. And with that, the other perk of being on the Patreon is you get to pester me and Nick with some wonderful community questions via our Patreon lounge on our forums. And I think that's probably a suitable point to see who we've got and what kind of questions we've got and how many subjects we've already covered.
It's hard because it's new to us. So we're still getting used to the whole, let's integrate the questions into what we're talking about. Yeah. And our producer should be doing a better job of pointing it out to us.
That's always someone else's fault. Don't rise to it, Jesse.
Hey.
Don't rise to it. He's just nodding.
Hey.
He's just nodding and smiling.
Remember, the CEO doesn't take the fall. The CEO delegates the...
Wait, no, what happened to Nick? Where did he go? Oh shit.
He's muted him. It's beautiful. The power.
Whatever, don't mute me like that.
He actually got rid of him on the camera.
What? What was that?
You completely disappeared on the podcast, on the actual YouTube channel.
Okay.
Love it.
All right. NierlyCrazy. Damn, we should have asked this one earlier. Hey, folks. While we're on the topic of the initiative, are there any other game developers that have a similar structure? The only one I can think of is 360 era Mistwalker. Otherwise, I know we've seen partnerships like White Owls and Arc System Works for the missing. Keep up the great work, and I hope you have a lol for your 101. We talked about it. It's World's Edge. World's Edge is like that project lead, smaller studio that oversees the developer, the bigger developer doing all the grunt work.
But you know, the biggest game that does this is Smash. It's not actually made by Nintendo.
It's not made by Nintendo.
And made by Bamco, I think. Bandai Namco.
No. Smash is this other weird situation. There's this tiny team called Sora or something like that. If there's any Nintendo fans watching...
That's Sakurai. I think that's his company.
Yeah, it's like just him and his wife and someone else or something, and they are the overseers. It's developed by Bamco. Sakurai's the overseer, who's technically not part of Nintendo, and then there's Nintendo's. Yeah, so that's like multiple
Very
layers.
weird.
But the funny thing is, you know, we've been discovering that Nintendo hasn't actually developed a lot of these games. Like, they've been doing this outsourcing thing since before anyone else was doing it, but they just didn't show it. It's like they wanted to take all the credit.
Something
Nintendo's
like that.
been doing it for ages. But yeah, so World's Edge are doing that at Microsoft. It's just, again, like we discussed earlier, the problem was messaging.
Yeah.
They made it sound like the initiative would be doing all of it, when I don't think that was ever going to be the case. I personally never saw... I didn't think it was going to be the initiative doing it. I always assumed the initiative would oversee an like a what's that studio that worked on Halo but has now been bought by Sony? Valkyrie? Valkyrie? Is it Valkyrie Studios?
No.
Or whatever they're called?
It's the Russian developer that worked on Halo. Saber Interactive. No.
No. Valkyrie. Sony bought Valkyrie.
I don't reckon.
They've been working on State of Decay 2 patches.
But they were working on Infinite a bit as well. They worked on Infinite a little bit too. So I just assumed that Initiative would be this studio that, like Nintendo, gets all the credit and are credited with making the game. But then in the credits of the game, we see that Valkyrie Studios, for example, did the bulk of the grunt work. I thought I always assumed that's what Initiative would be, despite what Microsoft framed it as. Because, again, sometimes you just got to read between the lines and see stuff logically. Like, they're 80 people. It doesn't matter how talented they are. They're 80 people. They're not making a full-blown AAA thing with 80 people. It's just like, it doesn't work that way. Last of Us 2 was like freaking
14
thousands.
support studios or something
Ubisoft
crazy.
was the Assassin's Creed games are thousands. Like, how do you expect 80 people to do? 80 people can do a AAA looking game, as in visually it's very pretty and it has the bells and whistles of a AAA game from a visual perspective. I mean, we've seen one-man studios do that. Like, what's that first-person shooter? Bright Memory Infinite. Look at Bright Memory Infinite. Made by one dude, but the game looks like this unbelievable AAA thing. But I'm sure that when you play it, you'll see how shallow it probably is.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like... It feels like it's been
That's
made
right.
by one dude.
Do you realize Bright Memory Infinite has actually been out on PC for a while?
Yeah.
Yeah, landed with a thud.
And that's the thing. That's the thing people forget. AAA isn't just how a game looks. AAA is everything. It's scale, it's scope, it's AI, it's world size, it's
100%.
budget that you put into a game, it's the size of the teams making it. AAA encompasses all of those factors, where most people just hear AAA and think, pretty graphics. Nah, man. That's not all AAA is.
Yeah.
Anyway, hopefully we answered that question in a very poor way. DirtyFlint. I don't even want to read this.
It's a pretty gross question, to be honest.
It is disgusting. Hello, everyone. Why do people cap for Alan Wake? It not only wasn't a good game, it was a bad game. Shut up, DirtyFlint. You can shut the hell up.
Yeah, like
Alan Wake is amazing.
You can say it's not my kind of game.
It's not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. But
It's not my cup of coffee.
It's definitely not a bad game. That's very strong.
Bad game. Alan Wake.
Very strong. Shocking.
Alan Wake is unbelievable.
Shocking.
Couple of super chats. Philaxis83. Wasn't around last week, but better late than never. Congrats on 101 episodes. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Philaxis.
Morgan Mason. $5 super chat. I'll spoil the Elder Scrolls 6 news. Horse armor is available exclusively when you pair your Metaverse account to your Microsoft account. Nah, man. The horse armor is going to be a Game Pass Ultimate perk.
Yeah.
They have to do that. There is no way known they can be silly enough to miss out on that marketing opportunity of having Game Pass Ultimate subscribers get horse armor for Elder Scrolls 6.
That would be
They
so
have
funny.
to, surely.
The new
That just
Horse Armor
writes itself.
2022 edition.
Yeah, they have to do horse armor. Come on.
I hope
You've
so.
got to do it.
Hope so.
Got to do it. Okay. Jesse Brother. Happy episode 101, Travis Brother and Travis Brother bosses. Yeah, see, he understands. Regarding the VentureBeat story about Moon Studios being run by toxic wankers, do you guys feel it's more likely to be true or that someone just wants to take them down a peg? Personally, I find Dean Takahashi's story about Moon quite credible, mainly because if he had it in for a side-scrolling platform as developer, it would not be Ori's, but... And then he's got a picture of Cuphead. Yeah, the Moon issue.
Yeah.
Oh, look. That's... Look, I will openly admit there's probably a bit of a conflict of interest there.
Yeah, like we've had
I'll
Thomas
just be upfront. I'm just going to be upfront about it.
We've had Thomas on this show.
We've had Thomas on the podcast a couple of times. He's been in our Discord. I will say he's not anymore. But he's been in our Discord. I've had a chat with him about it. Because when I saw all that stuff, I was a bit taken aback by some of it.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier about this kind of stuff, not everything is super black and white. People's perspectives can be different on certain things. Is some of it really, really bad? Yeah, I think some of it is.
Yep.
I'm not going to say what. I'm just going to speak generally and say some of it is pretty bad. I think some of it is not that bad. If anyone has lived in the corporate world and had bosses that they didn't jive with. Like,
yeah, it's
again, I'm trying to pick my words so carefully here, but
it's a difficult subject, right? In that we do have that obviously existing relationship with Thomas, and we've not personally experienced all of this stuff. It's heartbreaking to read. You know, reading reports from people feeling that they were bullied and they couldn't speak and oppressive, but we didn't experience that. So I'm not going to say this is how it is, and I hate Thomas now. It's just a shame, and I hope, you know, if anything, they can just look at it, listen to it, learn from it, make things better. That's pretty much
that's the indication I got from my chat with him, that there's a lot of learnings to be taken away. But yeah, I mean, look, go back and watch our 2 episodes with Thomas on. Go and read his reset posts that he got in trouble for.
He's a very blunt guy.
And that's what I mean. Like a lot of, again, I didn't, at first I was just linked to the VentureBeat story. And a lot of the stuff I read, and I was like, okay, a lot of that stuff's not great. But at the same time, a lot of it didn't surprise me at the same time, just based on how I know Thomas and how he talks and his personality. And like, again, it's there. Go watch our episodes where he's on. Like, he's very, very forthright and very unfiltered. And even about others' work. Like, I read that story about how he would say that he wouldn't say great things about people's work and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, he did that on our podcast. Like, he did that on our podcast, like, publicly. Like, he's done it in reset posts that you can all see. Like, a lot of this stuff wasn't, like, hidden, if that makes sense. Like, again, I'm trying to choose my words here because I don't want to be taken the wrong way. Because I'm not saying that they're all amazing, great things. They're not. If someone feels that way at work, they shouldn't feel that way at work. I know what it's like to feel that way at work. To feel like you can't talk, and to feel like you're not valued, and to feel like, like, I know what that feels like at work, and it sucks.
Yeah, when I was 18, I worked at a motor company whose acronym is Fix or Repair Daily. And I worked in the same office as my boss. And obviously I was 18. I didn't know anything. And I had a desk.
I love those acronyms for car companies. I love those acronyms for car companies.
What's Fiat's?
No, I've had another one for Ford. Found on rubbish dump.
It's a good one. Fiat's Fix It All the Time.
BMW, bring my wallet.
But I used to share a desk with this guy, and it was like perpendicular to mine, so it ran along mine in that way. And there was a stapler, and it was just a stapler. It wasn't his personal stapler, but he pretended it was. And our desks are literally touching. I could reach across and get it off his desk. And what was happening was I would borrow the stapler, I'd be doing my work, I'd staple some stuff, and I'd put it on my side of the border, close to his desk, like on the line. And he came in one day and he said, if you move that stapler again, I'll use it on you. And I carried on working, and I did, just absentmindedly, I used it and I put it there. He literally, without warning, I was 18. Now this is assault nowadays, right? But this is 20 years ago.
That's the thing.
He came over, he picked up the stapler and he crunched it into my leg. He stapled my leg.
Wow.
Right? Now, 37-year-old me would treat that very differently to 18-year-old. 18-year-old me was like, ow. But I didn't flip out or go mental or file a complaint.
And that's what I mean.
I don't know. So
like I had a boss. Yeah, I had a boss where to 99% of the population, this person's not a great boss. Like, he's probably potentially arguably worse than some of the things I've read about Thomas.
Yeah. This
guy was arguably worse. But somehow he and our personalities just clicked. And I didn't have the problems with him that the vast majority of the office did. So, but I fully understood I completely understood why everyone else in the office hated this guy. Totally got why they all hated him. Totally got it. They really genuinely did not like him. Like, I'm being serious. Complaints were made, the whole lot. And when they used to talk to him about me, I'm like, I get it, but like, me and him get along great. And he had like multiple times publicly, like not shamed me, but like out loud would be like, Nick, get the F in here, or what the F are you doing, or whatever the case may be. But and that's what I mean. Like, there's so much, yeah. But like I said before, people shouldn't feel that way at work. They shouldn't.
No, you're not paid to feel like crap.
That's right. They shouldn't feel that way at work, and they should also feel like they can speak up, which is, I think, a key issue about it. Like, it's one thing to feel that way because everyone's perspective is going to be different on things. It's one thing to feel a certain way. It's another thing to feel like you can't say anything.
Yeah, like
and I feel like
laughed out the room or something like that. That's not cool.
If they feel like they can't say anything and they can't speak up because of fear of losing their job or fear of how they're going to be treated or whatever the case may be, then that, I think, is a bigger problem.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a fair comment.
Because, Moon is a studio that is remote and everyone works in all different parts of the world where cultures are very different and how people interact is very different.
It's tricky to keep an eye on who's feeling blue. You can't judge.
That's right.
Reaction and body language sometimes.
And for the last 2 years, people haven't been able to really catch up in person. Do you know what I mean? And as far as I know, Moon, I think, used to have like retreats, like company retreats where they used to catch up and meet and whatever.
Yeah.
They haven't been able to do that for 2 years. So everything is still full remote. I don't know. It's
disheartening to read, especially if you're a big fan
of
those games and loved their work, right? To know that maybe people were suffering while creating that. It's not a pleasant feeling, right?
That's right, because in the end, that's how they feel. You can't dismiss how they feel because that's how they feel.
So I hope, let's learn from it. Hopefully they make changes as needed and, sort it out.
Well, I think Jez spoke about it on Xbox 2 or on the other one he does with Miles.
Oh, Checkpoint.
I believe, I didn't watch them, but I believe they spoke about it. And I think Jez also clarified on Twitter that apparently a lot has already gotten better.
That's good.
Which makes it sound like a lot of this stuff may have been older stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it's already improving. But again, from my chat with him, it sounded like, they're taking away a lot of learnings from all this stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine it's a bit of a wake-up call. So
it would be. Very much would be. Because like I said, guys, you've all seen him on our podcast. You see how he talks. It's not a secret. Like I can only imagine, like if that's how he spoke on our podcast for everyone to see, imagine when there's no camera on for everyone to see. Do you know what I mean? Like, again, this isn't me being secretive. That's just life. Like, it's just how things are. Like, if, I don't know. It's just, it is unfortunate because it's almost like when you look at the Ori games,
they're beautiful,
they're very
hopeful,
calming and soulful, and then you hear these stories and it's like the total antithesis of
tonal opposite. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's sad, but like I said at the start, I'll admit up front, there's a bit of a conflict of interest for us, which is why we, didn't want to just dive straight in, because it's also like, it's one thing to say, oh, it's not a good look if you say this, but it's also not a good look if we just full on flip a switch and turn and be like, oh, they're the worst. And because again, not everyone is on the inside. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's unfortunate that people feel this way and they were made to feel this way while at work doing something they love.
Hopefully it gets better.
And hopefully it gets better.
Hope we answered that question. Thanks for taking us down that rabbit hole, Travis. Creaky Legs.
Yeah. Creaky Legs. Hello, lads. As of now, I'm 142 hours into Elden Ring, level 219. Jesus. I'm level 8. I've beaten the main game. And I'm still finding new locations and bosses in this world. Have you found all the hidden walls? Did you see that tweet about the hidden walls?
You hit it 55
You
times
hit it
and
like
it disappears.
50 times or something to reveal a hidden room. Oh my god. If Konami ever wanted another crack at a 3D Castlevania action game, I think From Software basically nailed it already. I've also started Tunic, which is such a lovely game, and one with great accessibility options for difficulty. If that God mode was in Elden Ring, so many more people could experience this beautiful world, discover its secrets, piece together the lore, and have a great time. Anyways, what's a non-multiplayer game in recent memory you spent way more time on after you beat it, just because you enjoyed being in the world so much? Cheers and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Death's Door.
Really?
100%. Yeah, Death's Door.
I still haven't
the
beat
only
that.
achievement I've got left to get is to complete the whole game again with just
With
the
the
umbrella. Which I might actually go and do because I genuinely loved, and that was a game that nailed how combat felt. Like I knew when I died, I screwed up. But yeah, even Tunic, I was on Twitter earlier today going, I'm done. That's enough. I don't have the heart of me to go back and do another run, and I'm already doing another run. And I've already got all 3 gems. And I did it before we jumped on this podcast. After I tweeted and said, I'm not going to play anymore. It's just a beautifully made game.
That. I don't know if I do that with those single player games where I go back and just run around for the sake of running around. Like I go back and play older single player games. Like I'll go back and do Streets of Rage 2 runs. I'll go back and keep playing Super Punch-Out. Sometimes I'll go back and play Donkey Kong Country, but I don't know if those things count in terms of what Creaky Legs is talking about.
I read that as single player where you can play it from A to Z, right? You complete the main story, but then there's find X number of this and discover all the secret that. That's the bit like with Death's Door, with Tunic, with Ori, with those kinds of games where I'm like, yeah, because everything feels so good to play, I am going to go back and do all the extra bits because I don't want this particular gameplay experience to end just yet. And yeah, I'm always sad when it does because, that's what I love about these little indie games. And one of the pieces of news, and it wasn't on our topic, but I saw that Genesis Noir, which I loved, have added 3 more pieces of universe to how it got created. Like if you've never played that game, it's an incredibly arty, gorgeous game. Inside was a game you could finish from A to Z, but then you could go back and do the secret ending. It's that kind of thing where you keep going through it just to uncover a little bit more of the world.
Mark of the Ninja, kind of games. I did that a bit.
Yeah, that would count.
I did that a little bit in Mark of the Ninja.
So I love it. I just wish there were more games like that more often, where you just don't want the world to stop existing. Like I'm even a little bit bummed that already there are so many guides out there on Tunic. Like part of me wishes that the developers had made it so obscure that no one could have figured it out until like months of hard work. But such is life.
It's hard to do these days, though. It
is hard to do with the internet.
It's hard to do now. You can't.
There's always a smarter bear.
Back in the old days, if someone discovered something, how were they going to get the message out there?
Exactly.
Before the internet, there was no way. It was just some dude that discovered it. That's why we're now seeing so many of these old games having new discoveries 20, 30 years later. Or more than 20, because the internet's been around. In the way we now know the internet, it's only been about 20 years.
Yeah.
Even though technically it's been longer, but in the way we know the internet, it's been about 20 years or so. But yeah, that's why we're discovering all these 30-plus-year-old games. It's like, someone found a secret in Zelda Link to the Past, or Zelda whatever, or Mario this, or... That's why we're discovering this stuff now.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway. ShadowlessEdge. Hey Nick, John and XboxEra team. Due to Shredder's coming to Game Pass this week, I decided to go back and try some older titles like SSX, amazing, AMP3, best laugh I've had in ages, the Stoked series, and a few others. What the hell is Stoked? I haven't heard of Stoked.
Don't know that one.
Stoked. This also led me to ordering a copy of Tony Hawk Shred, a combination of skateboarding and snowboarding with the use of a peripheral board.
Wow.
Surprisingly, other than getting the device to calibrate, I found it a bit of fun and good for a bit of a smaller workout. I think I remember this.
I do remember this. It was the plastic
Yeah,
board.
when I used to work in retail, I reckon I went to one of those shows in a nightclub where the publisher had demo stations and thingos of Tony Hawk Shred there, and we were all jumping on skateboard on the board, and they were showing us stuff. I'm sure I remember that. However, it has me thinking about all the great peripherals we had in earlier generations, and memories of plastic guitars, buzzers, and such came flooding back. I have all those things you just described. So my question is this. Outside of the rather easy answer of bring back Guitar Hero, what is a peripheral you'd like to see come back? Or what is a peripheral you would like to see paired with a game you've played in the last few years? Appreciate the show as always. Follow up. P.S. It took 2 dead batteries, 2 full batteries, and balancing that board a meter in the air to get it to connect. Calibration is the worst. I love the Dreamcast fishing rod.
Oh,
that
God,
I
that's
used
a
to use
classic.
for bass fishing. Something like that would be pretty cool, and it's not big and cumbersome, so you'd think it'd be something that would be relatively easy to come back. Light guns, obviously.
Ovs. I would
which I
love to-
think are semi-making a comeback with the House of the Dead remake
Yeah,
on Switch.
they've got the Send and Light gun as well. That's meant to be pretty good
Yeah.
but quite expensive. So I hope light gun games come back in a big way. I'd love them to be back in my life.
The Dreamcast era, though, was like peak peripheral, like the Samba de Amigo maracas. Oh man, the camera with the mic for Seaman. They had the. I've still got the fishing rod for bass fishing, by the way. I've got my Dreamcast light guns. I've got my fishing rod. I've got my keyboard, my mouse. I've got the dance mat, the Mario dance mat game, Dancing Stage Mario Mix for GameCube. I had the bongos, the Donkey Kong one. Got rid of those. I've still got my gun for PS3 for Time Crisis 4.
Nice.
I've still got a lot of those peripherals.
I'd love to see the comeback for Steel Battalion's ridiculously huge.
Oh God, no way! That'll
controller. Man,
that
how
never
ambitious!
happen.
I know it wouldn't, but how ambitious was that? Right? Hey, we're going to make a game, but not only that, but your game can only be played with this. Although I think it could be played with a pad now. In hindsight, I can't remember, but you can play it with this, and it's even got like this button, and if you don't eject, your whole save game gets wiped, and you have to start from the beginning because you died because you didn't eject in time. Like,
I can't believe that.
That's
so
some hardcore game design from software. That's hardcore.
I don't know if that's... Did From Software make Steel Battalion?
No, but I'm just saying, like, if we're talking hardcore game design, like designing the controller to have an eject button that if you don't hit, it wipes your save because, you died, bitch. You know what I
that's
mean?
just silly. Like,
I know, but
we've spoken
just
about
the
this
idea
before.
of controlling it like that, it's just cool.
Like, the concept of death in video games, I find it odd that there isn't more discussion around it. Like,
it's very arcade driven.
That's right, and this is coming from someone who's 41 years old. So I'm the person that grew up in this age. The concept of death in a video game, you want to know why it's silly? Because it comes from the arcades where the games were designed for you to die frequently to keep pumping money into them. Right? That was the idea of being able to die in a game. Once that game comes home, what's the point in killing you?
Exactly.
What's
and
the point?
That's why when I've played like this second run, I've been playing with God mode on in Tunic.
How much more fun is it?
Oh,
how much more fun is it?
I'm having a lot of fun.
I've been using God mode since I was a kid. I did DQD. GoldenEye. Like, I've been using God mode since I was a kid because I'm like, why am I dying? I'm not pumping quarters in. I say quarters, that's such an American thing to say. I'm not pumping money in. Like, I've paid my money.
I can play
Just
this
let me
how
play
I
the
want.
game now. Yeah. I've paid my money. Just let me play the game. Like, why are you trying to kill me? You're not trying to get more money out of me. So why are you killing me?
Don't think you're wrong.
I think the main reason they would do that is because otherwise most of the games were like 25 minutes long.
That too.
No, back then they were, yes. But that's not the case
Nowadays,
anymore. It hasn't been
it's
the
just a
case for a long
balance.
time.
I mean, I think it should have both options where, like Tunic does. I think it's fine. People don't want to die, that's fine. And people who like the challenge, you have it. So I would like to see more God modes and things like Hades has and Tunic and all those.
Yeah. Be a lot more fun.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, that's just my opinion, obviously. I'm well aware of how people are going to have a very different opinion to that. I'm just saying, like, but again, I'm nothing if not consistent. Even as a kid, I used to put God modes on because I just found the game way more fun when I couldn't die.
Yeah.
Even back then. Like, I just, the best part of Crackdown 1 is Keys to the City, where you just make yourself invincible, fully power yourself up, and just wreak havoc in this city. Like, it's just, I don't know. And in Tunic, the death, like, if your death in a video game isn't really going to do anything other than cause you some inconvenience and frustration, then what's the point in it being there?
Exactly.
Like, you talked about Steel Battalion, and the more I think about it, that actually makes sense as a consequence for death. It actually makes sense. Like, if you're going to kill someone,
like the idea of it.
Yeah, if you're going to kill someone in a video game, then have it be punishment. Because right now, death in video games is just an inconvenience and a barrier. In which case, what's the point? It's a pointless concept in video games as it is right now.
I think especially as games lean, and a lot of AAA games lean more to becoming movies, where they don't want you to die. They want you to feel epic and powerful and yada, yada, yada. And they'll script a lot of things to make you look epic and powerful. It's like two different design mindsets fighting against each other. And you've got the old school.
It's just old school thinking. Yeah. Because you've always just died in video games. So everyone's like, oh, well, you got to die. It's like, but do you? Why? Like, why do I have to die? If all I'm going to do is start from a checkpoint 2 seconds ago, then what was the point in killing me to begin with? Like, what was the point? All you're doing... And then there are some games that are so bad at it that they send you back to an unskippable cutscene that you have to watch again before you do that part again. So it's like, so all that death is doing is causing me frustration for the sake of it. So why bother?
Yeah, like I think a real strong example of a game that I would have loved to have seen all of it, but I do not have the patience, is Cuphead. Beautiful art style. Bought it for the art style alone.
I haven't gone back either.
Oh, it's brutal. All right.
Yep.
I guess I'll never see those. I'll watch it on YouTube. Yep.
If that had a God mode,
I'd have fun.
I'd
just
go back
do the
tomorrow.
platforming bits.
I'd go back to Cuphead tomorrow if it had a God mode.
This is why you should become a PC gamer, Nick, because you can get cheat engine and you can become invincible in every single thing you play.
They should
literally just find the part in memory that controls your health, and you freeze it, and you can never take damage, and you're good to go.
Sometimes it works. Sometimes death works, and I understand it working in a game in roguelikes because that's sort of what the game is built around, the concept of death and learning from it and progressing further. And like, I loved it in Zombie U. Zombie U was a roguelite, I guess, and it was a first-person Resident Evil game before first-person Resident Evil existed. And when you died, you came back all the way at the start as a brand new character, but you could find your former dead self as a zombie, kill them, and get your stuff back.
Yeah.
So that's death having meaning, and death being woven into the design of the game. I'm okay with it there. But most death in video games isn't like that. That's not how it is. It's just there to be a barrier to the fun and a barrier to your enjoyment of it. In which case, why?
Maybe we'll become game designers one day and find out. But yeah, good question. Enjoyed that. Now, from peripherals to a deep dive into the subjectivity of game design. Who'd have thunk it? It's the XboxEra podcast.
How did we get onto that topic?
Peripherals. then Steel Battalion. Arguably, it's my fault. And here I am wanting to go to bed.
Oh my! I'm thinking. Hold on a second. This question wasn't about game difficulty.
I know.
Like,
Go figure. Go figure.
Oh my god. There's a super chat from Edward King. Hey Nick, Jez said today that he thinks in 2023 we will get Contraband, Avowed, and maybe State of Decay 3. Do you agree? And what else could we see? Well, I mean, Jez has documents, and Jez gets far different info from different sources than what I get. So he would probably know better than I would. State of Decay 3 is interesting because I think we were talking about this because Phil mentioned State of Decay 3 with us.
And that
when
surprised
he had a
us
chat with us, which made us think this wasn't something we talked about with Phil off air or anything like that. The fact that Phil mentioned State of Decay 3 led us to believe that maybe State of Decay 3 is further ahead than people think.
Yeah.
Because thus far, all we've seen is a CG trailer ages ago.
Yeah.
But the fact that Phil mentioned it specifically rather than mentioning a game that's coming soon, like Redfall or Starfield.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Just made us think, is State of Decay 3 further along than we all think it might be? So, yeah, I don't know.
The State of Decay 2 came out in May 2018. That's 4 years ago.
4 years. So, I'm not
and
saying
most
State
of
of
the
Decay
recent content has been from Valkyrie, aka of PlayStation Studios. It hasn't been
Valkyrie
just the main devs on it.
Interesting times.
I wouldn't be surprised if State of Decay 3 is next year. Would not be surprised at all.
Yeah, it's going to be a good year next year.
You know, Forza Motorsport hasn't been officially announced with a date. But, again, I wouldn't be surprised if E3 comes and it's like, yep, Forza Motorsport, fall.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot.
Again, wouldn't be surprised at all. And Obsidian, I feel like Obsidian are a super organized and efficient studio. I wouldn't be surprised if we see an Obsidian game next year. Yeah. One of the many games they're working on. I wouldn't be surprised. That's not me knowing anything, because I don't. But I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah. Okay. Was that the only super chat? I think it was.
That was it.
DeoGame. Hello, Lepner. What's that mean again?
Legendary.
Oh, panel. Something to do with panel.
Okay.
Probably something to do with panel. I've been playing Shredders on xCloud over the past few days, and all things considered, I'm genuinely quite impressed. It feels really responsive and nice. The performance was consistent, I assume he was meant to say. Latency low. Only a bit of screen tearing in intense moments. I think this bodes very well for the future of the service. However, with the rush to get new consoles out being harmed by shortages, do you think it's within Microsoft's best interest to sell cloud versions of their games for Xbox One owners? Not unlike how some publishers sell cloud versions for Switch. Or is keeping this tied to Game Pass a strong move to strong-arm the last few stragglers into embracing the future? I can see an argument for both. Either way, with Sony and co having to invest more in cross-gen, it's starting to become clear the strength of Microsoft's plan, especially when one xCloud Blade can theoretically service 12 gamers a day, presuming 2-hour sessions each. This is an interesting question. I'm really loving xCloud on console, and there's a great example of it yesterday. So my kids were watching Tunic, and then I can't remember why, but I went into my games and apps section, and my son was like, oh my god, 600 games, even though that shows demos as well. And I went in there and I was going through the list, and my son saw Halo. He saw like 10 Halo tiles. He's like, oh, look at all that Halo. And I said to him, oh, you might like Halo Spartan Assault, buddy.
Yeah,
Spartan Assault was a cloud game. Guess what? I didn't have to download and install it.
You just
pressed it, and it booted up. Now, my daughter was also in the room. She's like, oh, it looks a bit glitchy. Because of the artifacting from it being cloud. She noticed.
Hilarious.
She's like, oh, it looks a bit glitchy. Son didn't notice. The 6-year-old didn't notice jack shit. He just saw that it was a Halo game, and I said, okay, buddy, left stick moves the character, right stick aim your gun, and trigger to shoot. So he grabbed it, started twin stick shoot. He was loving it. I said, okay, buddy, now the paddle throws a grenade, and this paddle does this. And he just started playing through it. But it was great that we could just quickly jump in and try it without having to download the full game. I just thought that was the moment when that whole xCloud on console thing just clicked, and I'm like, okay, this is why it's awesome. I can just try something out, and it's done. As to what DeoGame is saying, they would have to be very careful about selling cloud versions of their games, because they're not in the same boat as Nintendo. If Microsoft is going to sell xCloud versions of games to Xbox One customers that want a game they can't run, they need to make sure that what they're actually buying is the real game, but because they're currently Xbox One owners, they get access to it via the cloud. But should they buy a Series X down the road, then they get access to the proper one because they've already paid for it.
Which is, I think there's so many pitfalls there. I think, to DeoGame's point, are they going to do one or the other? I think they'll carry on with cloud being an additive benefit of Game Pass because, Game Pass, it's a pass to play games, including xCloud. In that, it's a no-brainer. I think you're opening yourself up to all sorts of problems if you sell cloud games, and we've seen it on people buying them on Switch and then finding out that it runs like crap, or they have to queue to play, and then they've got to deal with the complaints of that. And my internet connections, it said it was good enough, but it's not in reality, and yada yada yada. It's just by having it as an add-on, having it as a a nice to have as part of your subscription, you're saving yourself those pitfalls down the line.
But what was wrong with what I described for Xbox?
Nothing's wrong with that. But you owned that game, or it was part of your sub.
No, but what I'm saying is, so you're an Xbox One owner, right? You currently own a VCR Xbox One. You want to play Starfield. Starfield's what you want to play, but you can't find a Series X right now, and you can't afford one right now. But you want to play Starfield, so you buy Starfield, right? And you play it via xCloud on your VCR Xbox One. Great. Awesome. It would actually look better that it could run on Xbox One anyway, which is why I said ditch Xbox One for Halo Infinite. But that's another discussion. Anyway. My point is that should that person then buy a Series X down the road, they shouldn't have to rebuy Starfield again. They should just have access to the native version of Starfield.
Sure. I don't disagree.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But my
that's
point
how
is,
Microsoft should do it. Because what happens now with these Switch owners? What happens if Switch 2 comes out, right? And it's more powerful and can run these games that were cloud versions on Switch. And we're going to assume that Switch 2 is backwards compatible with Switch. I mean, I kind of was told it is. So what happens? So if you bought Kingdom Hearts Collection on Switch, which is a cloud-based game, when Switch 2 comes, which would be more than powerful enough to run Kingdom Hearts Collection, are you still going to be playing the cloud version?
Yes.
Or do you suddenly get a native version? Sorry?
They'd have to make a native version. They don't have a native version. And
that's what sucks. So if I like DeoGame's suggestion, as long as it's executed the way I suggested, which is you buy Starfield as an Xbox One owner. So you go on the Xbox website and you buy Starfield. You purchase it. And it appears in your ready to install list on your Xbox One, but there's a little cloud logo in the corner. And you understand that you're playing for the time being while you have a VCR Xbox One. You are playing the cloud version. If you buy a Series X, bang, install it, you got the native version. You're not paying twice, you're just paying, and you get the native when your console's ready to handle it.
That's fine, but that's not the point I was making. The point was if they were to do that, it would open themselves up to the pitfalls of, it didn't run right, I want a refund, I didn't mean to buy it, yada, yada, yada. Whereas by keeping cloud gaming...
But that's messaging.
I know it is, but it's also, by keeping it as an additive, a benefit of Game Pass, they'd rather sell the sub to an Xbox One owner who then, as a benefit of their sub, can do exactly what you're suggesting. Know full well that is part of their subscription. This game doesn't run natively on your console. You can play it on cloud as part of your subscription. They haven't bought the game, ergo they can't complain if it fails or falls over in the way that they could if they'd spent money and they demand the product work as advertised, because it's an additive benefit.
But that's why you've got to make it clear.
Worms, can of worms.
No, I think if you make it clear that while they're an Xbox One owner, they're playing a cloud version, then that's fine. Like,
but they do that, don't they? You can do that already, right? On the cloud.
Well, no.
You can play.
Yes,
you can play games on Xbox One.
If you're a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber. But what I'm saying is, by allowing people on Xbox One to buy a game that's next gen only, the other thing you're also doing, and why I'm surprised Microsoft wouldn't do it, is that you're helping lock them into your ecosystem. If they're just a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber, they could turn around still and go, bugger it, I'm going to buy a PlayStation. But if they've bought a handful of next-gen only games that they're playing via the cloud on their VCR Xbox One, they're far less likely to then turn around and be like, well, I'm ditching the Xbox ecosystem, because they've invested too much in it at that point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's a good retention. It's a good retention tool to let them buy those games.
I agree. I just don't. I don't see Microsoft doing it.
I think it'd be smart.
I need to find it. But Phil said before the plan with xCloud, when it's out of beta, which it's still in, is to let you play the games you buy on xCloud, not just Game Pass. Like they've said it in the past.
That is how they should do it. That is how they should do it.
That was the plan years ago. Who knows now?
I think it's a fantastic migration and retention tool. Oh, cool. You can't get your hands on a Series X right now and you can only keep your VCR? That's okay. You can still play Starfield. It's not going to be the native experience, but you know what? Buy it. You can play it for now on your VCR Xbox One, so you're not missing out on the zeitgeist. And then when you're ready with your Series X or S, download the native version and play it. Go for it. I reckon it's a great thing. I reckon that's an awesome thing. The whinging, you're going to get the whinging regardless. There are people that whinge now, even when they play it native. Oh, the frames dropped by 3. Oh no, the resolution's 1800 and upscaled. You're going to get that now, whether it's cloud or not.
That's true.
So as long as the messaging is clear that, hey, while you have this Xbox One, you're playing the cloud version, so you need a good internet connection. Then that's their bases are covered.
I'm going to step in as a producer here and say we're at 2 hours and 45 minutes and still have 3 questions. So John is very tired.
I'm fine. What was that?
With daylight savings now, we're going to have to adjust our time a bit. Okay. Good old Collingwood. Happy autumn equinox, Nick. Happy spring day, John and Jesse. One of Tunic's more appealing features is the game manual you piece together as you proceed through the game. In the good old days, the days before digital downloads, games came in boxes, and those games had manuals. A lot of times, though, those manuals are more than just telling you how to play the game, but replete with wonderful art, fascinating information about the game's background, and colourful facts painting the world of the game. Yes, I used to love reading the game books. Some of the memorable game manuals I've had was the novella in the back of the original Elite that told the story of a space pilot's first day, the Lucas Games flight simulators with their manuals that included profiles on the aircraft involved and the history of that the games portray, and Sid Meier's Pirates, which had short biographies of infamous pirates. So, what are your favourite game manuals? Also, footy's back, hooray! Yes, I want to talk about that. Favourite game manuals? I don't have specific ones that stick out in my head. I just remember them generally, if that makes sense.
Monkey Island on the Amiga had a pretty cool one, and on Xbox, the original Halo Combat Evolved had a really neat manual, and it had all the breakdown of all the species and the guns and the artillery. Yeah. I remember reading it. It was good. Those were the days.
2s. Did Halo 2s have anything special?
Might have. Can't remember now. Halo 1 did.
I've got Halo 2s. This is Halo 2s.
Okay. Have a look.
Pretty thick. Oh, look at that. The Samsung competition card.
Wow. Old school.
Oh, my Halo 2. Look at this
my
book,
favorite
it's in like,
chat.
It's in like perfect. Look at that. Yeah, look at that. Secret Transmission, the Master Chief.
There you go.
Look at that.
Nice.
Look, breakdown of the government units. You sure you weren't talking about Halo 2s?
Nah, I think Halo 1 had something similar, but cool that Halo 2 did it as well.
The controls. All stuff that's in the menu now.
Yeah. These things don't exist anymore.
The HUD. Like, all explains. I used to love this stuff. Like, I remember I'd drive home, like, we'd go and buy the game, and on the drive home, you're like opening the game, reading through the manual on the drive home. Look at that, all the weapons, the breakdown of all the weapons, of all the vehicles. I never realised. I've never actually looked at this manual before. This is the first time looking at Halo 2's manual.
It's a pretty good manual, right? Maybe I was thinking
It talks about multiplayer basics. Wow. This is full on. And look at that. The credits are in the manual.
Wow. They could actually fit it on a couple of pages back in those days.
You know what the modern equivalent of that is that fans don't get to see, but we have, John, are the review guides. They can be unbelievably gorgeous, especially like Ubisoft's. They look so good.
Yeah. Halo's was pretty. Elden Rings was...
Yes, Elden Rings was insane.
Yeah. Very cool. Very, very cool.
But yes, good old Collingwood. Footy's back. Round 1 of the footy just started. And as good old Collingwood would be aware, Sadistic Magician is a Melbourne supporter, and his team won the grand final last year. But round 1 started. Collingwood is brand new from the top down. New president, new coaches, new everything. Collingwood, for the first time in a long time, is very, very new. Very low expectations coming into this year on Collingwood. I, however, do not have those low expectations. I think Collingwood's going to surprise a lot of people this year. And we won our first game against all odds. So we're off to a good start. Go Pies.
Huh?
We're the best. Okay. Kemika. God, I don't know if I pronounced that right. Kemika.
I just go Jemiker and not say the K, I bet.
Kajemika.
Really? I reckon the J is silent, but I could be wrong. Maybe if they're in the chat, they can tell us.
Maybe.
Hello, fellas. Hope all is well. When does Phil step down, and who replaces him? Thank you, and keep up all the wonderful work.
Never in my heart and Sarah Bond.
Yeah, I think Sarah. I think Sarah will be the one that takes over. When? I don't know. Like, I have a sneaking suspicion that a lot of these studios that have been acquired, I think a lot of them have been okay with being acquired contingent on Phil hanging around for a bit.
Yeah.
Particularly Bethesda.
Yeah, I mean, Phil said, we talked about the Lifetime Achievement Award last week, and he was like, I don't feel like my life is done yet. Like, so he's got some years left in him yet.
I think Phil will be around at minimum till the end of this generation, this traditional generation before the new Xbox comes out. At minimum. But at the same time, there's no way known a succession plan hasn't already started. And my personal choice would be Sarah. I suspect she's the one that's probably been earmarked to take over. Could be wrong, but she'd be my pick, personally.
Yep, I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm with you.
Last question. Brightest Sun. Hi, folks. God, we could have asked this one at the start too. Happy Vault 101 episode. With all that debacle around GT7 this time, with grinding, microtransactions and server downtime, do you think it is going to be Forza Motorsport's time to shine? Forza Motorsport 7 still looks visually great, and in new Forza Motorsport, they seem to be aiming for better simulation too. Keep up the great work. Well, yeah, we talked about
we
this
kind of
earlier.
answered this. So
yeah. As to the Forza Motorsport 7 thing, yeah, like...
It really does look
kind of
quite
what
nice
I alluded
still.
to earlier. It's a bit embarrassing that the comparisons with GT7 are being made to a 5-year-old game. Like, if that's what you're going to try and use as your victory card in console wars, you're kind of already lost. Forza Motorsport is a last-gen game that's 5 years old. Your game should look far better. It should look objectively better than a last-gen 5-year-old game. If there's even a little bit of parity, maybe your game's not that great looking.
Yeah,
just
it's a bit of an odd
saying.
one.
Like, it's... Yeah, and again, that applies to any new game. And again, that's part of the cross-gen problem. That's why Halo doesn't look as nice as it could. Because it's being held back by an old console that it has to run on. And at least a lot of the Xbox studios are pretty experienced with this stuff. Yeah. I doubt Polyphony is.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's why I tried to allude to that earlier. This is the first time for Polyphony developing for 2 platforms.
It's only going to get worse for Sony. They've all got to start developing for PC.
Yeah, they're going to have to consider PC now soon too. But I think they've been outsourcing a lot of their PC ports.
True.
Like
they've bought a team now that does PC.
Yeah, and they've bought a couple of teams that do PC ports. So, smart move. I mean, the writing's on the wall there. For those of you that are super upset about Sony putting their games on PC, got some bad news for you. They're all coming to PC. Whether it's day one, whether it's later, whether it's whatever the case may be on a per game basis, they're all coming. It's just a matter of when. But yeah, that's why that's why I'm again going back to that argument. I'm sorry, I know you want to go to bed, but whatever. That's why I'm going back to that argument where I said ditch Xbox One for Halo. You have the cloud gaming coming to Xbox consoles. If someone wants to play Halo on a VCR, let them play it via the cloud. It'll look better. It'll look better than the native version. So why not just ditch last gen? It's also an advantage you have over Sony. Sony doesn't have that kind of infrastructure implemented. So they have to make 2 versions of every game. Microsoft don't.
Well,
take advantage of it.
They've finished though now. That's it. There are no more cross-gen games.
I know. For Microsoft there isn't. I know.
So, although saying that, Forza Motorsport was being tested on the OG Xbox One.
Forza Motorsport's been tested for Xbox One. Whether they go ahead with an Xbox One version is another ballgame.
Yeah.
Luckily, with Forza Motorsport 7, again, turn 10, super talented, runs super well, very efficient. I wouldn't be stressed. I mean, look at Forza Horizon 5. Did cross-gen really affect it?
No.
I'm going to go ahead and probably say no. Not much. Halo, I reckon it full did. I don't care what anyone says. Halo, it fully did. Forza Horizon 5, like Forza Horizon 3 and 4 were gorgeous games, even on base Xbox One. So clearly the Forza games aren't going to be held back as much by last gen. There are going to be exceptions to the rule. Sony also has an advantage over Microsoft in the cross-gen argument because the PS4 is a much more powerful console than base Xbox One. So anyone that owns a PS4, don't worry about the PS4 Pro, that thing is stupid. But anyone who owns a base PS4, look at Horizon Zero Dawn on base PS4. Look at God of War. So Sony's cross-gen... Their cross-gen teething isn't going to be so much, oh my god, our games are going to look like crap because we have to consider the PS4. Look how their games looked on PS4.
Yeah.
Sony's teething is going to be all these studios having to make 2 versions of games, and it's a lot more work for them, I'm going to assume.
Yeah. There's a lot there for them to juggle going forward, for sure.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting, really, to see how it all plays out. But yeah, we'll see. But that is all of our community questions. So we're coming up on the end of the show. There's only one thing I wanted to just let folks know about is we do have a preview, keep me honest here, Jesse, coming next week of the next kind of interesting, smaller, but very unique, very cool. People probably want to pay attention to this one game, which is Weird West.
I would say it's coming soon.
Soon-ish. Soonish.
No time.
No
so
time.
I'm working on a review for it. We've got a preview that we can do before the review. The game comes out on like the 31st, I think. So yes, well before the 31st, we'll have a preview up.
So keep an eye out for that one. And we'll be back next week as per usual. Episode 102. God, it feels weird being in the triple digits now, but it's nice. It's nice. It's pleasant.
You know, I just saw a thread on Reddit already about the Xbox hardware thing that I said.
Yeah.
And he goes, Nick also claimed to know what it is, but it's not VR. I didn't say it's not VR.
No, you didn't.
No,
I said it. I said I doubt it's VR.
I didn't say it's not VR. I said I know what it is and I can't say. And there's been a lot of talk about VR, and there's been a lot of speculation about a stick and a lot of speculation about a portable. That's what I said. I didn't say it's not VR. See what I mean?
But you know, if you say that, people go, "Oh, so it's VR."
I know, but I'm just clarifying. Like, I didn't say it's not VR. I didn't say that. So why say that? And that's what I mean. This is my problem with stuff. Like, if you're going to do this kind of thing, at least, you know, that's what I mean. I try and choose my words carefully, and it still happens. Like, at least just, that's fine. Make the thread whatever, but at least get that stuff right. That's all. Just get that part of it right.
Never works that way, my man. Never works that way. But yeah, never mind. Anyway, folks, thanks for hanging out in the chat. You've been lovely as always. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm surprised we managed to drag this one out for 3 hours, but Nick was on a roll today. I'll blame him.
It's because we didn't blend the community questions into the discussion. That's where we stuffed up.
Yeah, I'll make sure next time for my sleep schedule alone. But yeah, everyone have a great weekend. Go play some video games. There's sure plenty of them out that are really good right now. So you got nothing but good things to pick from. And we'll see you guys back here same time next weekend.
Yep. Ciao for now.